Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Entertainment news today. You're such a dragon gay. Everything sucks and it's no good. That comes out of Hollywood. But there's one place you can go to get all your news and info, and maybe even have a laugh or two. You know it's true. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark. All those bombs and flops, but need never stops. We will keep going through the night as we keep up the culture fight. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark.
It's Tuesday night. Welcome to the show. We have Cynthia being completely represented. Sorry, it took us 3 minutes to get her on screen. That's our fault. And we accept the responsibility for not representing.
You know, but between the two of us, it looks like she has a couple of Disney ears coming out of her head.
I know, it does. It's a little Disneyish.
Yeah.
A little Disneyish. But we also have a few people with us. We got Scribe to kick things off with us tonight. How you doing, Scribe?
Doing all right. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all having a good, what day is it now? Tuesday. Gosh, yes. It's a weird week because it's so short for the holiday and everything. And besides
most it is. Yeah.
Yep. Good evening, all.
Well, hopefully you're doing well, and you have some Thanksgiving plans coming up. And
Yep, spending some time with Sister Scribe and having some FUD and just kind of relaxing and getting away from the work craziness for a couple of days. So looking forward to that.
Speaking of craziness, we have a crazy gentleman joining us.
Oh, yeah.
The craziest one I know.
The craziest, the best one.
He's so
weird.
Mr. 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. What are you doing? Just flying in here at the last second.
Oh, well, I told you when I was going to
I know, I'm just kidding.
And for once, I actually came right on time.
Now take a hint and leave, Nick. Don't you hear him?
No, what do you got going on for Thanksgiving? Gonna spend it with the fam, feed the kids some turkey durkey?
We are going to my girlfriend's parents' house, so obviously I won't be here the Thursday show, so we'll be eating food into oblivion, and if I don't have a food coma by 6 or 7 p.m., there's something horrendously wrong with the picture.
Well, I might have a show, because I think I'll be home by then, so we'll have to see. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, we'll play it by ear. But we also have with us Price of Reason. How you doing in outer space there? What do you got going on this week for Thanksgiving? Any big plans?
Well, nothing really. It's it's kind of low key, and yeah, that's
Loki, you
about
mean
it.
you're gonna get punched in the balls over and over again?
I hope not, but nothing too extravagant.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
hopefully everybody has a good time. Hopefully you guys out there in the chat have something planned. If not, like I said, I'll try to plan some sort of stream Thursday night. I don't know who I'll be able to get with us here, but yeah, we'll play it by ear, as they say. But good evening, good afternoon, and good night to everybody out there, whatever it is where you is. Thank you for being with us. I see we got Sander in the chat. Jeremy Winfield is here. Penny, we got Josh Hammond. Goddess of Women swinging around that wrench, and she is dangerous with it. We got Phoenix Knight as well. We got Lombardi 1969. Welcome everybody to the show, and hit that like button if you haven't already. Share out the link. Let everybody know we're live. We got Shanatsky as well as Walter Tomaszewski and Tim Hayes, Angela Arega, if I'm saying that right. Ariga?
Angela Ariaga is how I say it.
Angela Ariaga. All right.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember that. We got Superior Nav here. We got OST San here, and so many more. Hit the like button, share out the link, let everybody know. Like I said, we're live. Well, we got some sad news to start the day off. And this is really weird because a new box set just come out of a couple of this guy's films. And, oh, crap, I don't have the story brought up here. Hang on. And where'd it go? I just had it. Did I accidentally close it?
I
Anyway.
can find it.
I'll have it before too long. But anyway, we were just talking about this before the show. But yeah, like a 4K box set of 3 of the Zaz films came out. Of course, we're talking about the Abrams Zucker films. And I've also been revisiting Police Squad to watch The Naked Gun. Because believe it or not, guys, I've never actually seen the Naked Gun films. I know that's
What?
gonna.
What?
I know.
What?
I know.
No,
I don't believe you.
I don't believe
have
it, Tom.
never,
It's not
ever,
possible.
ever,
You're
ever
lying.
watched it.
No.
I've seen the Police
No.
Squad.
Go
TV
back to
show,
Russia.
No.
There's a movie
but I
I saw
have
that Tom
never
Hanks
actually
did.
watched them.
This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, man.
You can say you're lying to me, and I'll forgive you.
I've seen
How-
plenty of scenes.
How long have you been a
Doesn't
communist?
matter.
You want to know
Tom-
why I never watched it? Do you guys want at least a reason why?
I
There
think
is no-
that
there's-
matter
there's
what
no
you say, I don't
justification.
think you're going to get out of this very
Yeah.
elegantly.
Okay, well
but
the
go on,
reason
go on.
is because being such a big fan of the Police Squad TV show growing up,
Uh-huh.
because they would show it periodically on CBS. I don't know if you guys know this because it started as a TV show. They only
Yeah.
got 6 episodes,
Right.
and every once in a while, CBS would keep showing them in the summertime to fill in for time slots for like 6 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And I just fell in love with that show. And I seen a few clips and stuff from the movie, so I'm like, oh, and this is kind of interesting because we were kind of just talking about this a little bit too on another unrelated note. It's like, oh, so they just took all the best jokes from the TV show and put it into a movie? Pass. That was my reaction to it. And then other people have bugged me so much about it over the years that I finally have it in 4K now, plus the other 2 films. And I'm going to sit down and watch them after I rewatch the rest of Police Squad. But of course, I mean, the news that if I haven't buried the lead already, we lost one of the members of the Zaz crew,
Oh,
and that was Jim Abrams today.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, so
They also
sad
did
news.
Airplane. I mean, those
Oh, yeah.
guys are legendary when it comes to those kind of comedies.
yeah, these guys were kind of the last true satire kings. Because didn't they come in and take over the Scary Movie franchise for a bit too and keep that going for a bit? But like after that, once we got all these Not Another This movies and the Meet the This and then That Spartans and all that, those were just garbage fucking films.
Everybody has always been trying to be them.
Exactly.
I feel
Yeah.
like they're the ones that sort of revolutionized what a satire movie could be. And then after, yeah, I mean, I still give credit to somebody like Mel Brooks that he did his own thing, but their sort of brand of satire, it really is very influential. And after they made movies like Airplane, The Naked Gun, Top Secret, these are movies that are classics. And so many later tried to emulate this style, but I don't think that anybody has done it better than them or more original than them.
Yeah, and they're timeless. I mean, for the most part, there's not really any jokes in there that don't work today. The only one that the only one that ever the only one that ever comes to my mind is from Top Secret when like the Pinto gets hit and it blows up. It's like,
actually, I was gonna say, here's the thing, and I know this is probably another thing that people are gonna be pissed about. Top Secret doesn't hold up as well as some of the other films.
What?
And the big reason of that is because a lot of the movies that's making fun of have been out of the zeitgeist for so long. Same thing with Airplane. I don't think if you show, I mean, we love it, but I don't think if you show a kid Airplane today, they'd get most of the fucking jokes in that movie.
I tend to agree that in general.
I was thinking the same thing with Police Squad watching that, because I'm like, you know what? You have to have been familiar with all those 70s cop shows to get all these fucking jokes and why it's funny, because it's played so earnestly.
I'll tell you what, when it comes to the other stuff that you said, I tend to agree, but I will say that Naked Gun 1, in my opinion,
I haven't watched that movie, so I can't
still
speak
holds
about
up.
the movie.
I don't care if you've seen old cop movies, you haven't seen them, none of it matters. I feel like even if you don't know anything and you are a millennial or a Gen Z, whatever it is that you call yourself, and you've never watched Naked Gun, I still think it's funny. And I am kind of ashamed that you've never watched, ashamed for you that you've never watched Naked 1, 2, and 3. Naked Gun 1, definitely. 2 is also a good movie, not as good as the first, but good. 3 is the only one that I would have let slide. If you would have said I didn't watch 3, I would have let it slide.
Yeah.
No, I just haven't, just because. But I've seen Hot Shots 1, and I think honestly, I'd say their best films are probably Hot Shots 1 and 2. If anything, Hot Shots Part 2 is one of those rare sequels that's better than the first movie. And you don't even have to have seen the first movie to like it and get it.
No.
Because it works on its own.
I enjoyed Hot Shots 1 and 2, definitely, but I think that I also like it when you feel like you're watching something that's revolutionary. Maybe you're right, a kid would watch it today and wouldn't understand why it's revolutionary.
Well, the one that's revolutionary would be Airplane.
Airplane, I still think that Airplane, Top Secret, and what's his face, and Naked Gun 1.
Top Secret's fun, but it's just, again, like I said, that problem with that one is that's so far removed from like the Elvis movies and stuff, because that's really what it's making fun of.
I
that
think
and the older
it's
Bond
brilliant,
films and
though.
stuff,
It's
but
brilliant.
It has its great moments, but it's just the lesser of all of the films thus far that
I still think that when I'm giving sort of an evaluation of things that are important in cinema, I think that those 3 movies are a little more important than Hot Shots, where Hot Shots is still good, but I think that it's not as important as the other 3 that I just said.
See, and that's where I feel like Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2 always get dumped on a little more, especially Part 2. Because I'm sorry, that one is one of the funniest fucking movies I've ever seen in my life.
They're funny. I don't dislike them. They're funny, but I just don't. I think that they're like just not in that kind of Olympus that I would put.
Somebody mentioned Loaded Weapon 1. Did they have something to do with National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 as well?
I don't know.
Did Abrams?
That one was like the weakest out of everything.
That's the last good National Lampoon's movie, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never. It's all right. It's all right, but it's nothing spectacular.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit, but again, and this is just me saying because I liked Top Secret quite a bit as a kid, and I have not seen it since I was a kid. So this is the first time I'd seen it in probably 30, 40, not 40, but 30 some years or whatever.
If you want to compare it to a 2024 type of humor or something like that, obviously, although humor today is considered offensive, some things you'll see in that movie they wouldn't even get away with today. But regardless, I'll say that humor changes, comedy changes, and that's why, as opposed to like a drama, like when you watch The Godfather, when you watch The Godfather, it still holds up as this great drama.
Well, that's the other thing is like a lot of this humor is going to come off like, a lot of Bob Hope humor did to us as kids.
Right. And I understand that, but I can still appreciate how great those movies are, and I still think that out of all of them, The Naked Gun 1 still holds up.
Not to
no matter
debate
what.
this, but the thing with Top Secret, this is kind of part of my problem too, is that it's not as focused as Airplane and The Police Squad, and
I'll give you that.
Naked Gun and the Hot Shot series, because at
I'll
least
give you
those,
that.
they know what they're doing. They're focused on what they're doing. I mean, even though, like I said, probably the one that holds up least is Hot Shots Part 1, but that actually probably has a resurgence now because of Top Gun, because I would say that one's probably the least because it's so much Top Gun parody. It's almost like a Mel Brooks type parody. Like, at that point, you know what I mean? Like it's like Spaceballs, but with Top Gun. To where Part 2, it's mixing a lot of shit. It's mixing Rambo, Rambo 2, all those 80s action films, not just Top Gun. You know what I mean? It's got a mix of all of them. So, but again, that's just because we grew up with those. I'm still curious how those would play off today in comparison. But I don't want to talk about that so much as I do just the fact that we lost this guy. And he also worked on Ruthless People. It says here, Kentucky Fried Movie. Obviously, we know that one.
Mhm.
Ruthless
That's the one that
People
got
was
it
a
all
good
started.
movie. Ruthless
Yeah,
People,
Ruthless
I haven't
People was
watched.
a great film.
Haven't watched that one in a while, but growing up, that comedy was really something special. Ruthless People, I thought that was great.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was Disney's first R-rated film.
Through Touchstone,
Yep. if I'm
they
not
had that,
mistaken.
and they also had, I think, Down and Out in Beverly Hills. I think
One of
was
those
also,
two was the first R-rated films. I know that.
I thought
Yeah.
that Down and Out in Beverly Hills was the
That might
first
have been
one.
PG-13, if not. But yeah, I can't remember which one.
But,
It's one of those two. But you're probably right. Yeah.
But in any case, those were the early Touchstone movies. Just to show that I too know random crap.
No. You're probably actually more right than I am. And I just know one of those two was one of the first. You're right. Yeah.
I also am a suppository repository of useless.
Now that
trivia,
would be
yeah.
appreciated by the Zaz crew.
No,
Yeah, probably.
Tom, sometimes I like to surprise him because he's like the know-it-all, but sometimes I kind of pop up with something that he even surprises him that I said it.
What's sad is how much they shaped. Not sad, but I mean in a weird way, it's sad because we lost Jim. But and just how much they shaped my humor growing up. Like we did a Star Wars parody in school as a kid for English class, and it is so much just basically Star Wars as a Zucker's Abrams film. It's not the Spaceballs version; it's totally different. I mean, wow, and enough. It's the dialogue is a Zucker brothers or Zucker Abrams movie, basically.
Well, I think one of the most important elements someone can learn in life is to not take either themselves or anything else too seriously, because that makes everything a little bit easier. It actually opens the door for more comedy and more humor than if you're just also uptight all the time. And the Zucker movies, Airplane and Hot Shots and everything else, they allowed you to, as the British say, take the piss out of some things that sometimes got overblown in their own sense of self-importance.
Well, and what I mean, the difference is because people are like, well, what's the difference then? I said, well, Spaceballs, they're pretty aware of themselves in that film.
Yes.
They're playing it straight, but not completely straight. It's more tongue in cheek straight, to where the Abrams and Zucker films, they're playing it 100% fucking straight.
Yeah, an Airplane was just it's basically taking the entire script of a different movie and just switching out the situations and the actors and having the dialogue be almost exactly the same.
There's a few things, but there's a few things they add here and there, but otherwise you're 100% right. Yeah.
Actually, for Airplane, in order to avoid a potential lawsuit, because of how closely it followed an actual movie, they bought the rights to that movie so they could remake it and do the exact thing that they did, just to avoid any potential legal issues.
And they could have probably, and this is the thing, is the reason why I think they did this actually, Price, is because at that time, parody and satire was fairly obscure. Like Mel Brooks had been the only one who'd really done it. So I think you're right. I think they were afraid of that, and they probably would have been able to get away with it because it does count as parody at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking new ground, though. They're breaking completely new ground.
Yeah.
I figure, and plus because it was an old movie, I think it didn't even cost them a lot. So I think that whoever was part of the studio,
it was 0 hours what it was.
Yeah, they're just like, let's cut a check to this old movie. Nobody's going to care anyways. And then they did the movie.
What's funny is that when you watch the movie, if you've seen it a few times, you can really tell what the original script is and what their shit is.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
especially the part where they give the adult lines to the two kids sitting next to each other,
which is hilarious because I watched because I have the TV cut from a 16mm scan, and that's most of the stuff that's added into that because they padded it out to make it 91 minutes or whatever for
longer,
and cut out the stuff they couldn't have, which is funny because some of the lines that did make it. I brought this up on the morning show yesterday. Because the line about the whole abortion bit back and forth between the white zone is for loading and unloading only. And the red zone is the red zone has always been for unloading and unloading, Jan. It's like, well, you just say what you want to say, or what you really mean. You're upset I didn't get the abortion. That whole bit is cut out of the TV, or that cut is in the TV cut. Okay, right. So that whole thing is, but yet they cut out the line where she goes, "Just like I like my men."
Right.
It's like, well, wait a minute. That was not half as bad as the other stuff. But then they, like you said, they add a whole bunch of those kids talking back and forth. And you can tell a lot of that's just the original dialogue from the show. or from the movie because it was a TV movie or whatever, and they just give it to these kids, and it's only funny because it's these kids talking. And it is because like you find out that so she's like, so is this your first time traveling? She's like, oh no, I'm this that I've been done da. And she's like, yeah, I'm a teacher and I would do this and stuff like that on the weekends. And he's like, oh, I'm in business and da. It's like just this whole little back and forth between the two of them, and you're just like, it's the dullest dialogue in the world, but it's funny because of how they present it, right? And that's pretty much how it works. And then otherwise you have like the, the don't call me Shirley stuff is the added stuff, right? Like those kind of things, like, and do you like Roman wrestling? And you ever been to a Turkish prison?
You ever seen a grown man naked?
I will say this. There is something that kind of gets lost when people discuss these movies. Initially, Airplane, the first one, the second one they had nothing to do with, but the first one was basically them together. The Abrams, Zucker, and Zucker, Abrams, Zucker, whatever you want to call it. They were that team working together. They did The Naked Gun that way, but at some point they stopped making movies together. And I think I think that even starting with Naked Gun 2, you didn't get all three of them. And that's because, if I remember correctly, the studio, when they pay a director, they just pay whatever the director is, and they'd have to split it
up.
They had to split it. And after a few movies that were so big that they keep splitting salaries, they basically decided, hey, we're just going to go off and not do things that we direct together. Well, there was another thing
is Zucker went and did Ghost and stuff like that, so he got way bigger.
Right, but that still was a bit later. Initially, the first thing that bothered them was that they weren't making the money that they wanted. And for me, this is the thing that kind of bothers me about entertainment. If you're a studio and you have these three guys and they're hitting these kind of movies out of the park, they're giving you Airplane, giving you Top Secret, they're giving you Naked Gun, which are box office successes and really revolutionary movies that are also good for the video cassette market, where they could still make a lot of additional revenue. And at the end, they're like, we don't want to pay you all a salary. It's like, sometimes Hollywood and their studios have always been stupid, and they're still stupid. And I think you have these geniuses and you don't let them make movies together, ramp up the budget. I would rather pay these guys in their prime, a few more dollars and have them make good movies. Nope, we don't want to pay you. It's like, I don't know. I just thought that was very stupid.
No, I agree. And I do remember something about that. And I didn't know they had a documentary about him. I'd love to check him out. But yeah, I think a big part of it was once Jerry kind of took off. That's where because I think when they came in and did it was either one of them or a couple of them only did worked on the last few scary movies. It's weird to say that, but and took over for the Wayans brothers or whatever. But
yeah, and it's also kind of sad in a way because no one's really been able to meet or top them since. Really,
oh, no.
I mean, there's been maybe one or two here or there, and you can say maybe one or two of the scary movie franchises, but the one I try to think of.
Well,
is
even
one of the more recent,
kind of were the same era of them anyway, so they're kind of
the Wayans, the Wayans
more than they are
the Wayans, don't drink your juice while in the hood, etc., and those kind of things.
Well, that all started back with weren't they part of we're gonna get you sucker or something like that?
Yeah, we're gonna get you. I'm gonna get you sucker.
And, I thought that was what's his face, yeah.
But I try to think of something more recent. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I know this is still a few years ago now, is A Million Ways to Die in the West, which is just an absolute overbloated nothing.
The closest I can come up with would probably be John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell when they did
the Walk Hard.
Walk
Hard. I guess
those
that's
are
the closest.
Two that probably come the closest to that.
But they ran out of gas pretty quick because
I think
Sherlock
those two
Holmes
have
things.
a falling out. Well, yeah, between the Blades, because I think between Blades of Glory and something else, they had a falling. And after Sherlock Holmes,
Sherlock Holmes sucked.
I think they had a falling out on the set or something like that. I can't remember if it was over, but they haven't. I don't know if they've worked together since, or they maybe made up since. Somebody in the chat might know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pootie Tang, because Chris Rock kind of tried for a while with things like CB4, and I think Pootie Tang was one of his things and something else, but again, those guys are all contemporaries of sorts, almost. Yeah, they're a little bit younger, but they also got big in the same era, so it's hard for me to say, oh, there were guys that were influenced by them, right? You're right. There's nobody else, because these guys were even tied in. So, that's the thing, is these guys were also tied together with, because they worked with John Landis early on, who ended up, working with the National Lampoon's guys, who ended up working with SNL, who ended up working with, there's all these yarns that kind of work out. And like I said, you eventually get to SNL, which gets Chris Rock and Damon Wayans, which also ties into the Wayans brothers, which also, so you know,
yeah,
what I mean?
but I mean, a lot of those are based off of like individual characters, whereas a lot of the Zucker stuff was genre satire. Like
my point is this is all in the early 80s to early 90s, right? So they're all basically contemporaries. Is my point? They're not so much influenced by. We don't have.
After that, it's all been the not another date movie, superhero movie, Meet the Spartans, stuff like that.
It's all those were crap.
They were garbage. They were garbage because
not another date movie. Well, not another this, not another teenage.
And we brought those up during when we talked about Mel Brooks. Yeah, sorry.
There were some really crappy ones. It became like they took this whole idea of these type of satirical movies and just cheapened it and made it crap.
Well, it's because it wasn't about what the Zucker brothers or Mel Brooks was doing. I keep calling them the Zucker brothers, Zaz boys or whatever you want to call them.
No, I mean there's two Zuckers there and one Abrams.
There's a Zucker. They used to call them, but they're not brothers. I don't think either is the other thing. But
I think they are. I think two of them.
That's why they call them the Zucker brothers and Abrams. I think is what they used to call them all the time.
They're not all obviously a guy that's called Abrams is not the brother of the Zucker brothers, but if they're brothers and he's Abrams.
Yes. Anyway, like their whole thing was they loved the shit they were making fun of. Right. They weren't just making fun of shit just because it was in pop culture or it was to try and meme it or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Because that's the thing is a lot of those Meet the Spartans and the Not Another Superhero Movie and
they weren't cynical. They were like love letters in a way, you know?
Yeah, to those genres. It was more sophisticated humor. Once they got to those kind of Not Another Teenage whatever, those movies already weren't sophisticated. They're kind of this lowering the level of the comedy to just more generic and dumb. And I feel like the comedy of Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker was on one hand sophisticated, but on the other hand, everybody could understand it. It wasn't alienating in the sense that you have to be like super smart to get it, but it was smart humor. Whereas those later movies was just dumb, and I guess dumb enough for some idiots to like it. I guess.
Yeah, most of the later movies, like the Not Another's, is that mostly they're filled up with like pop culture references rather than being like actual humor. It's like, oh my gosh, look, it's Dr. Phil. Oh wow, remember Dr. Phil? Yeah, that kind of
cheap jokes, like the easy, you know, going for easy cheap jokes. It's
just
fine.
throwing in a random Pulp Fiction reference and thinking, oh, that's the joke, right? Like, no, that's not the joke,
right?
And I'm not saying that Zucker and Abrams weren't guilty of that once in a great while, but it was very rare, and usually it was normally in the latter parts, like I said, when they were just kind of out of steam and it wasn't the whole crew together, and it was like, yeah, whatever.
Somebody's saying that I'm lumping in a bunch of different ones, that there's date movie and there's Not Another teen movie and a bunch of different ones. And you know what? I could be lumping in a few. I saw
they
a few
might be
back
some
in the
that
day.
are made by different people, but to me, they're all the same crap.
Right. They
some
somehow
are a little bit
blur.
better than others. I'm not going to say they're not, but they all don't necessarily have the same kind of pedigree that these do.
Yes,
right.
That's exactly what I mean. There's probably something that's better than another. Like they're not all the same. Maybe, like you said, some are better than others. But I feel like it's already a subgenre of just a lot of pop culture references and not as sophisticated as these other movies. I honestly feel that Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker together, they were just a lethal combination, and we missed out by not getting more movies that all three of them did together. That really is the big loss.
No, basically, if there's like there's too many of them to have a Mount Rushmore, but if there was like a Sgt. Pepper's album cover for these guys would definitely be a part of it. You know, you'd have like Monty Python, Mel Brooks's crew,
Mel Brooks,
these guys, they'd all be a part of that. Maybe the earlier SNL crews, National Lampoons, however you want to put it.
Right, like early National Lampoon, some good stuff there, yeah.
And, you know, because really it all boils down to, it goes all the way back mainly to like Monty Python is kind of the tipping point where these guys, because I mean, the way the Holy Grail, I'm sure, is the one that's kind of the...
It's a great movie, The Holy Grail, and
those
Monty Python.
Because which one came out first? Was it... Actually, I think Blazing Saddles came out first, if I'm not mistaken. I think about it. So maybe Mel Brooks would be the one we kind of have to...
But Monty Python had their show, and then they brought it now for something completely different and things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they were around before that. And I mean, you had a few other guys here and there that would do similar stuff. But it was usually wrapped around a certain person. Because I've seen a lot of people bring up certain actors and stuff. It's like, yeah, but they're building characters and they're doing the other thing. Like Adam Sandler's an example of that. The whole thing is built around his character, right? So yeah, I couldn't remember which come out first. Was it
Blazing Saddles came out before Holy Grail, but Monty Python already
Python
had
were
their
already
show
on the
earlier,
air? So
and their
yeah,
comedy. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard to tell, but I feel like, you know, these things kind of happened. There was like a movement happening at the same time,
Yes.
kind of. And Mel Brooks was happening in the U.S., whereas those guys were, you know, happening.
Well, think about it. In the span of a decade, you had, you know, Monty Python, the beginnings of Saturday Night Live, Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks doing their thing, and the Zucker and Abrams crew doing their thing. So you had all of those guys in the 70s.
It's
and up
wonderful.
through the 80s.
It's really
Yeah.
wonderful if you think about it.
Yeah. And that was actually the beginnings of what would be the 80s, which is kind of where they perfected it. And yeah, no, I mean, it's just sad that we lost one of the crew. And so what happens when these guys get older? I didn't not expect to spend this long on it, but I knew we'd wax about it a bit because we all love these movies so much. And I'm surprised
Mhm.
Nick's been so quiet, actually.
You guys were taking over that conversation so well.
Nick,
that
I'm gonna
pretty
let you
much
have the
anything I
final word
would've
on this.
Said, anything I would say, you guys kind of already said. I mean, yeah, it's an unfortunate tragedy, but obviously a lot of great films were left behind. I've really got nothing original to add to it. So I'm a big fan of Airplane. Love Airplane. Stands the test of time for me. Love The Naked Gun. It still blows my mind to this day. Like, I swear, I thought you were part of that Toxic Tuesday for that. I guess not. Now I feel like I almost
No, I
need to
skipped
do
out
it
of it.
again.
If
I
it
feel
was
like I
during
need
my
to do it
crew.
again just to have you watch it.
I feel like even I
Seriously.
needed to be on that Toxic Tuesday for Naked Gun.
We may have. I wonder if we just didn't know each other yet, because I would totally let you in on
Well,
that.
Airplane and the Hot Shots movies are the ones that I hold up the most. But that's just my personal.
Okay.
I think we did Crocodile Dundee together.
We
Is
did
that
do
possible?
See, when
Crocodile
people are
Dundee.
asking about
Some of them Hot Shots though.
Yeah, and people are asking about Airplane 2. I thought that they did do Airplane 2. I guess
They
I never
did do an
realized.
No, I think they had nothing to do with it. They
I
didn't
did
want
not
It had
realize
nothing to
that.
do with it, but it was made. It was made.
It was, but and that was where I was like, totally. You know what's blowing my mind is I watched the episode of Police Squad tonight that Bill Shatner gets killed in the beginning of. I'm like, oh, this must have been just before the same time they were filming Airplane 2. Is the thought in the back of my head. So I'm like, that's why they must have just, because that was one of the joke gimmicks is they'd always have a guest star in the show, but the guest star would always get killed in the fucking intro.
they had some kind of dispute with the studio for Airplane 2. There was something
okay.
going on. That's why they didn't do it. And
I never knew that, but I've only seen Airplane 2 maybe 2-3 times in my life. That tells you.
Same. The first one
Yeah.
I've seen many times. The second one I've seen maybe once or maybe twice.
All I
And
remember
it's
is William
nothing-
Shatner's in it. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
in
I like the
space.
Shatner's in it, but really it's kind of a dumb movie.
And they get most of the original cast back, but other than that, yeah.
You could tell that the material isn't as strong. You could really tell. When I was younger,
Maybe that's
I
why
think
it didn't resonate with me as much. Sorry, Bryce.
I'm saying when I was younger, it fooled me a bit more. Like when I'm thinking that when I was young and I saw the first one and then I saw the second one, I didn't realize, and I'm like, well, you know, I was more kind to it. But over the years, like it's absolutely clear why the second one is a significant dip in quality. But go on.
Oh my god. Oh my god. They need to keep that guy away from movies then. Guy who made Grease too.
Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah, Get Smart. Forgot about Get Smart. That's right. Who was behind that though? Was that Mel Brooks? And those guys.
Mel Brooks.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. So yeah. Well, we already put him in the Mount Rushmore. Him and his crew, which I would be anybody who was.
No, but it shows that he was also active. That you know, I
Yes.
think that stateside you had Mel Brooks, and in England you had Monty Python. But those were good things to have.
Yeah, and the OG Saturday Night Live crew and everything. Like, God, if you guys have not seen Saturday Night yet, I want to hear everybody's reaction to that. It's a great fucking flick. Jason Reitman.
Still haven't
directed it.
watched it, but I do want to watch. I'm just finally now gonna get tomorrow to the 8th episode of the Cobra Kai. That's how
wow.
behind I am. Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure by Thanksgiving I get these last 3 episodes done.
Well, there's 5 more coming in January or whatever.
So is it January for sure?
I
January?
think it's January or February. If somebody in the chat knows better, let me know. Because I think it's
Okay.
every other month they're coming out. So
Okay, I hope so. Because I got 3 more to go.
But
I'm gonna
anyway,
make sure. Yeah, go on.
I had a couple of stories here I wanted to get to before we lose anybody, because I know at least for sure Scribe's got to leave us pretty soon here. But I don't know if you guys heard about this. I expected to talk about this on the morning show, but we never actually got to the subject. But did you guys hear about this whole Jon Watts business with Apple and the Wolf sequel? I'm curious.
I heard, yeah.
I heard surface details.
There's a
but
few.
not the extent of it.
There's a few issues. I understand how he feels, but at the same time, I think the guy values himself a bit more than he should.
Well, and part of the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is more of a common thing now, right? Like, because he's not the first one to say this, and I get where you're coming from, Price. But honestly, outside of the second Spider-Man movie, all the movies I've seen by this guy, I like. And I can't even blame the second one on him because that's part of it is whatever Marvel wanted to do at the time. But anyhow, so Jon Watts, because I loved Wolves. I thought it was a great film. And what pissed me off is the word came out. So for those who don't know what's going on here, word came out the other day that Wolves 2, which was being worked on, was canceled out of the blue. And the original news was that Apple canceled it. But then the director, Jon Watts, come out and said, hold up, that is not what happened. Okay, so let's see what he had to say about this. Let me see if they got the quote here. Otherwise, I do have it somewhere.
It's down below the fold a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Where is it? Okay, here we go. I think this is it right here. So I showed Apple my final cut of Wolves earlier this year. They were extremely enthusiastic about it and immediately commissioned me to start writing a sequel, but their last-minute shift from promised wide theatrical release to a streaming release was a total surprise and made without any explanation or discussion. I wasn't even told about it until less than a week before they announced it to the world. Kitty, come on. Why do you do this when I'm trying to read? It's like, it's not even a newspaper. They just know. Anyway, where was I here? I wasn't even told about it until less than a week before they announced it to the world. I was completely shocked and asked them to please not include the news that I was writing the sequel. They ignored my request and announced it in their press release anyway, seemingly to create positive spin to their streaming pivot. And so I quietly returned the money that they gave me for the sequel. I didn't want to talk about it because I was proud of the film and didn't want to generate an unnecessary negative press. I loved working with Brad and George and Amy and Austin and Purna, however you say that, and Zlatko, and would happily do it again. But the truth is that Apple didn't cancel the Wolf sequel. I did, because I no longer trusted them as a creative partner. So yeah, I think that's pretty damning. And he even returned. How rare is that in Hollywood that he returned the money?
Yeah, that's a level. That's a level of integrity you don't usually see.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, Price, about maybe he is a little full of himself, but I got to give him some credit. How often do you hear about that? It's like, nah, I'm good. Thanks.
Maybe, you know what?
I'll give him credit for that. You never hear of that. That's rare.
I somewhat appreciate it, but I feel like maybe we haven't heard both sides of this story. And in addition, I also think that George Clooney is super annoying. I've steered away from this movie because I just don't feel like seeing him on my screen. Maybe at some point I'll ease up on that sentiment. But right now, I don't know. George Clooney, he basically came out and said, I'm not an actor. Don't even think of me as an actor. I want to get involved in who gets to be president in a country. I want to get involved in political parties, like who their candidate is. It kind of annoys me. It's like, stay in your fucking lane and get off.
Yeah, but he
screen.
got rid of Biden, so I got to be neutral with him.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't think it would have mattered.
That George Clumpy guy is my worst enemy.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it would have mattered if he would have gotten rid of Biden or not. I think that none of this would have made any kind of difference to the outcome. But I'm saying that beyond the outcome, I just don't like this guy suddenly thinking that he's everything that's wrong with Hollywood and their pretentious and condescending bullshit, that he thinks that he even needed to go to the New York Times. It doesn't even matter what party it is. It doesn't matter what political thing it is. It's a precedent that the guy, he took the goodwill of people that went to see his stupid movies, and he goes around and writes articles like he's this big thinker and he gets to decide who's a candidate. Like, fuck you. Like, who are you? Go make a movie, sit with your millions of dollars and just shut up. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that annoyed me beyond like a certain party of politics. His behavior just annoyed me in general. I don't think that somebody should get involved the way he did.
And that's fair. Like, if you feel that way about George, that's totally fair. Like, at the end of the day, though, I think what it really boils down to is the story at hand here is about John, and he decided to do this. And I can see where you're coming from with both sides of the story, but I'm willing to bet. How do you put Brad Pitt and George Clooney in your fucking movie and not expect it to go to theaters?
Well, this reminds me of, I think it was like a year ago or something, where Christopher Nolan was really down on streaming only
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
movies
There's
because
him and the
because
guy who
what
did the remake
well
of Roadhouse as well. But continue.
the
I'm sorry.
one of the issues that Christopher Nolan brought up was that if you have a streaming only film, then it is entirely controlled by the streamer and can be taken away. Whereas a theatrical release, generally speaking, leads to at least some kind of physical media release as well. And so if you put it entirely in the hands of the streaming service as a stream only, you lose not only control of the film in a lot of ways, but so does the public and so does the legacy of your work.
Well, and to go with what Price is saying, because I don't think you're totally wrong about his pretentiousness, because what he's probably saying is, I wanted the Scorsese deal. They promised me the Scorsese deal. I didn't get the Scorsese deal.
There is a
'Cause
contract. There's a contract, and the question is, what does that contract say? If it
I'm
says
sure there's
that
some little loophole in there that they were.
then
they
he's
used
an
against
idiot.
it.
Then
Yeah.
him and his representatives are idiots because they signed a contract that said one thing and they wanted something else. So either he signs the thing that he gets a theatrical release or he doesn't. But the fact that he's like, I don't trust them as a creative partner, I bet you that what happened is that they had in the contract that they could do a theatrical release or not. And they just told him, listen, we thought about it. We don't care about the stupid, release. We just do things on Apple. We have a ton of money. Just make the fucking movie and shut up. And here's your check. And then he's like, no, I don't appreciate it. I don't like the contract I signed. So they said, okay, go fuck yourself. And really, you could say it's integrity, in that point that he says, like, gives them an ultimatum and says, either you release it or I'm out. They just said, who cares? Then you're out. This is just nothing for us, this Apple Plus streaming. Nobody watches it anyway.
Well, and he didn't even really say that though, Price. And I don't mean to stick up for him or push back at all. I'm just saying he pretty much said that he was more than willing to keep working with it. He just told them not to advertise the sequel in their and they did that too. So that sounds more like what he's upset about. Because you're probably right. Yes, it must have been in the original contract because he was still working with them up until the release of the film, it sounds like. After that is when he put the brakes on. When they didn't even listen to him in his request in the press release that they leave out that there is a sequel being worked on yet. That's what it sounds like to me.
I guess the breakdown is whether or not he was of the understanding that he was a partner and not an employee. I guess that's really what it comes down to.
And that's where that's where I'm coming from here is like, yes, you're probably right, Price. And that's where he didn't necessarily break ties with him at that point. He wasn't happy about it, but he probably bitched at his fucking lawyer and his fucking manager, and his manager and lawyer said, look, it's in the contract. They didn't have to release it theatrically. They said they could have. And just because they told you who they were, that doesn't mean they're going to. So then he's like, all right, well, fine. So in his retaliation, he told Apple, fine, go ahead and release it on streaming, but don't advertise that we're working on a sequel already, because I don't want you to use that in your advertisement to try.
Can't they make a sequel without him, or maybe because of it's without him?
Maybe not. He must have some sort of. That's what I'm thinking. Is there's got to be or it's either he has some sort of say or sway into it, which might be another reason why the contract is convoluted and he's pissy about it.
Maybe it's convoluted because
he's
tied exclusively to the sequel, but on the same time, they're not obligated to make it a theatrical release. And maybe that's where the impasse kicked in.
Well, and it doesn't even sound like that was going to be the problem for the sequel. Again, it sounds like his bigger issue was between that already being like, okay, fine, you got me. You get what I'm saying? Like, sure, you told me all these things, but in the contract, you went and you pulled the contract on me and you released the movie as a streaming only feature, fine. But just don't use me and the fact that we're working on a sequel to promote this one. That's what he was requesting of them, and they did it anyway.
Most people that are filmmakers. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, my guess is either he does have some sort of ownership over the film rights, like you said, or the characters, or Clooney and Pitt said, well, if Watts is not going to direct this, we walk. And if they walk, guess what? No movie.
Right. That is a possibility. That's a possibility too. And there's always the strange possibility that somehow all the parties will come back and, at some point find a way to
get the rights. Yeah, if he can get the rights from Apple, I bet you he will.
When I was what was I going to say? I had something to say that
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to distract you.
No, I was cutting you off, so you were right to cut me off, but I was just I didn't want to lose my train of thought. But I guess go on. If I remember it, I'll tell you.
Well, I know we only got Scribe for 5 more minutes, so I'm going to give him the last couple minutes to give his final thoughts on this, and then try to
Oh,
jump to this other story before we get.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to say about this. It's, I mean,
Alright.
two sides of the coin, and
I don't know if the super
yeah.
chats are broke tonight or what. We don't even have any member nothing or anything. At least
I
according to my
remember.
thing.
I remember actually what I was going to say. That most filmmakers dream of having the type of deals that this guy has, and this at the end to me sounds like petty. The first world problems. I don't know what am I looking. What's the term I'm looking?
I get
for?
where you're coming from, but I mean, I look at it this way too. Like, look at if you were like a huge, well-known chef, right? And you get hired by this company to come in and be their chef, but the boss keeps coming in and telling you how to do your job or what you can and cannot do. Are you going to stay there for very long?
No.
Well, again, it depends.
I mean, when
on how
when you're a chef and you want to show
I
off what you
guess
can
so.
do, you know what I mean? Like, that's why all these
If
movies.
you're the cream
They
of the crop,
probably paid him so
no.
much money. They probably paid this guy so much money. That's what I think. But I understand if you're the top chef and you don't like that they didn't give you the ingredients or whatever. Whatever.
Well, the freedom and the promises they made. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I just feel like this is a bit too much drama surrounding a movie that was just like what. Like I haven't seen it, but it's not like this is at the top of everybody's mind. I think you're one of the only people that even watches Apple Plus and managed to catch this movie. Maybe at some point I'll watch it because you say it's like the best thing that ever happened, but most people didn't even watch
oh,
it.
I didn't say that. It's just one of the better films off of Apple Plus, but
Most
So-
people haven't even seen this movie. It's like he's talking as if everybody's talking about this thing. It's I think that he's like a legend in his own mind, you know?
I wanted to, before I leave, I did want to talk about this story because I read through
yeah.
it
So
earlier.
real quick, Disney to pay a $43 million settlement over a class action gender gap pay suit. And that is they're being accused of, or at least found guilty of, or by paying proxy, I guess you could say.
No, so what's effectively
what
happened?
Bring up to this, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so effectively they were accused of having paid less to certain segments of their workforce who were women than male counterparts, but the claims were made on the basis of the most tiny percentages of difference that were so within not only the statistical realm of error, but also it's basically what happened was, is if you read the story, it gets down there, is essentially Disney caved to the same accusations of the gender wage gap that have been floating out there for the last 10, 15 years, rather than fight and look like they were being sexist. They didn't offer anything that proved there was a gender wage gap, like they were paying women less. It was just the same old canard of men working full-time earn more money than women on average, and therefore, because there's a disparity, obviously sexism, instead of there's a whole bunch of other factors that go into that, but rather than keep fighting it and looking like they were being sexist, Disney just caved to settle to get it out of the way and make it go away. Because they really didn't have an argument. If you look at the numbers, it was something like 0.5 percentage point of difference in pay they were looking at. It was just, yeah, it's Disney sort of just making this go away. So I don't, and this is one of the few instances where I'll come to Disney's defense. I don't think, especially given the culture there, they had some kind of systemic sexist pay structure. I think that they were accused of something in sort of a Me Too kind of fashion, and they just paid to make it go away. That's what it seems like to me.
Well, and even if there really was, my bigger problem with this is, at the end of the day, is that a lot of the times, especially in this type of business here, because this is usually where you find a lot of the disparities and where a lot of the sexism still does exist. Like, they like to point the finger and say, you need to do better. But it's like, well, that's funny because there's only like a few industries where that's still a problem. And you're one of them, buddy. You know, so like I wouldn't be surprised if there is some pay disparity here.
No, disparity.
But,
certainly there's disparity. Here's the thing you got to remember, though.
But again, you also have the other half. This is the point I was going to get to, is that women sometimes don't know how to stand up for themselves and get what they're worth.
Well, no, you see, there's the thing you have to remember about disparities. A disparity does not inherently indicate an inequity. A difference between two numbers doesn't mean the answer is an ism. There could be any number of other reasons for it. And so just saying men got paid on average 2% more than women at Disney, that doesn't mean that Disney's sexist. It could mean that the men are working more overtime hours, or they have different jobs, and it's just
or have had more successes. And you're right, like there's
Yeah.
a variable here. It's not like they're working in a factory all doing the same exact job.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but yeah. So in this case, like I say, I think Disney, more likely than not, isn't guilty of any actual systemic discrimination, but rather than continue on with a long class action lawsuit that's going to generate more headlines, and just like with this one, is that gender pay gap, which almost is like a headline that says, "Oh, there was a gender pay gap," like they're settling as an admission of guilt, which it's going to look like that. There was really a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for Disney here.
I was wondering that if this is what that was, because personally, I mean, I like you, Scribe. I can actually see Disney in the right as well on this. And I do feel like no matter what choice they make, it was going to be slanted one way or the other, especially with there are already enough legitimate issues that are their problem and that is their fault. So for them to add more fuel to the fire definitely would not help us. So yeah, it's clear that this is the easiest admission of guilt to sweep it under the rug, and before you know it, it'll be memory hold in 10 days from now or less.
Well, that's kind of the humor of, and that's funny you bring this all up, is that it's kind of like showing the hypocrisy of this whole movement, right?
Exactly.
How can they
Eating
defend
their own.
themselves? Like,
Yes.
Exactly. How can they defend themselves without looking?
Yeah, because
like
it's been believe all women for years now, and Disney's been so progressive and liberal and so on. So if they get accused of being the thing in a way that they can't easily avoid, they don't have an out. They can't say, "Oh no, we don't do that, and you guys are wrong, and your complaints are invalid."
Well,
because
They do have the industry trades, though. They'll say it one day, they'll put this article here, and they'll never mention it again.
Oh sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
No,
I'm
this
sure
is-
that the $43 million, that's probably a drop in the bucket compared to what they probably would have had to pay out had it actually been gone through court and they lost. But yeah,
right.
The only time that they're going to have real trouble is with the Gina Carano trial, and especially if she doesn't settle. And I'm not saying that I know what's best for Gina. She also has to do what's good for her. But man, if that thing goes to trial with Discovery and ends up being this kind of big thing,
Yeah. Well,
man,
in her case,
that'll be quite an event.
Yeah, in her case, she has a different kind of evidence on her side than the class action people using really nebulous
Well, that just
statistics.
shows their double hypocrisy there. Because
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah, no. If Disney was actually guilty, and I mean actually guilty of having some internal systemic quota system or pay scale or something that actually discriminated against women, and they have a class action lawsuit, and the plaintiffs had the evidence to show that, I don't think they would have settled, because the payout would have been so much more than what is effectively, especially when you split it out all amongst the participants, a piddly amount. So this is a nothing burger in the.
I'm sure if you took a broad step backwards and looked at Disney
a broad
as a
step,
whole,
excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Wait a second. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to genderize my conversation. If you took a big step back and a big look at it all, I'm willing to bet that Disney probably hires more women than it does men anyway, especially in the parks
these days.
part,
Sure.
Because,
oh yeah.
well, yeah, because not just that, but I mean, just in general, like most of the people that are playing like characters in the parks are women. Sure, a lot of the people that are doing the grunt work are probably men, but those are people you don't see.
And they've had an initiative for years to promote more women into leadership roles as a part of this whole DEI, ESG thing anyway. So, yeah, the idea that Disney has some endemic anti-women bias or something.
Well, and how much of that comes from some of these programs? Now, you might be aware of this, Scribe, because we found out like a lot of these writing, and you probably know this part too, that a lot of these writers in the writers' rooms where you'd have like the black guy in the writers' room or the trans woman in the writers' room, they would actually be paid out through some other DEI deal instead of actually being paid through the production. We learned this from Script Doctor and some other people. So I wondered if a lot of these initiatives are actually funded through other means too, and that might be part of the problem here as well.
Yeah, there a lot of companies, and I'm sure Disney's probably similar. They have a budget set aside for DEI initiatives that come from a different pool, than the specific project that someone might be assigned to work on. So they pull their pay, or they get their reimbursement from a DEI initiative, rather than, I'm working on She-Hulk, but I'm getting paid from the DEI pool at Disney or something. And that's just a hypothetical example. I don't know exactly how it works, but
right. But that's basically what I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a direct, like, say if you're a producer, a woman producer, and you're working on a project, but you're not getting paid through the production. You're getting paid through that thing that you were just talking about, that DEI thing.
Right. So it doesn't come out of the production budget
to some of these people. Yeah.
Yeah. They get supplemented by these DEI budgets, so that there's no financial strain on the project or the production or something, but they can say, oh, look, our DEI initiative has made our workforce more innovative and more diverse and more efficient, and so on and so forth. And it's all sort of a numbers game. And trying to justify these DEI budgets.
The reason I bring that up is I wonder if that might be causing some of the disparity there, right? Like, because they have probably a set limit that they can give out, and
it depends. I guess it depends. Yeah.
Because what I learned from this, and just to kind of go on the other end of it, because I know you got to run here soon. Yeah. Like Script would tell us, is like once they hit a certain point, like a threshold, either the production themselves would have to make up the difference, or decide that they want to keep them or not. Then they'd have to pay them out flat. So, like, let's say you have one of these executives you brought up the ranks, and they were being paid by one of these things, and then you had to make a decision. Well, are we going to continue to pay them when we don't have the extra money for them, and it's not coming out of this DEI thing anymore? Because that was a thing after like 2 or 3 seasons, they would have to decide, well, are we going to keep this writer, or are we just going to kick him to the curb, or what are we going to do?
Yeah. And then you get accused of, like, taking somebody out of their seat at the table and being sexist, racist, or whatever else. So it becomes.
So I wonder if that kind of a thing is being played here, if that makes sense.
In my most cynical mind, I think, like you said, in some ways, the lawyers representing these plaintiffs might have been taking advantage of the corner that they painted themselves into ideologically. It's like, well, we find a disparity, because people love pointing to disparities, whether it's a McKinsey report or something else, and saying, aha, look, there's a difference between this number and this number, therefore racism, therefore sexism. And that's been the logic that's been fueling a lot of the DEI programs, because that's the problem they are attempting to fix with DEI programs, is to fix a disparity when they don't even understand or necessarily want to know the actual reason why those two numbers are different. They just find the God of the gaps theory of statistical analysis, which is, if there's a difference, therefore ism. So you don't have to think too hard. But anyway, I gotta go.
I know you do have to go. We got one super chat for you. The mom sends in $1.99, says, I like turtles. Come in late and Scribe leaves. Evening.
Yeah, I apologize. But if you want some more, Scribe. Oh, sorry.
Mikey has one for you too. I think this is related to what you're just saying anyway. That's why I wanted to catch you before you leave.
Sure.
Mikey in the house, sending in $10. So statistics on pay gap have repeatedly proven that women bitching about getting paid less is horseshit.
Yep.
Reports on the contrary in support of gender gap inequality with women are flawed statistically, and I think that's kind of what you were saying. Basically.
They did a follow-up study. I want to say it was in 2018. I could be mistaken, but they actually tried to look at the gender wage gap, as it is said. Again, is basically the average amount of money paid to men, or earned by men over the course of a year working full-time as compared to women. There was a difference of something like 30% between these two columns. And therefore, the conclusion was, women are paid 30% less than men, rather than saying women earned 30% less than men, which is a completely different way of looking at it. And when they finally actually were honest with themselves and wheedled in and tried to account for hours worked and type of job and salary and education and everything else, they after they controlled for all those other things, they still found like something like a 0.03% difference between the actual pay between men and women. But again, that is so within the margin of error that maybe it is sexism, but you can't say it is. That's the problem. The whole gender wage gap thing is nonsense. Disparities do not prove an inequity. And these plaintiffs, I mean, they made out like bandits. They didn't have to do anything.
Or if you're somebody like me, you could be a real shitty jerk of a lawyer and bring up the fact that some of these women could very well be only making this much because they use their assets to get to the top that men don't have.
That would be sexist. Speaking of
I
sexism,
would do that because I am known as a very sexist individual.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sexism on the other end of the spectrum, and I'll
Yes,
give a
you have
promo
something
for
coming
myself
up
now.
here, don't you?
Yes, in about 50 minutes at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, hopefully after this show, so I don't step on any toes, I have a makeup episode of my show, Ted Excellence, because I was off the grid last Thursday when I usually do my show. And the subject for this one is called Misandry Myths. And if you don't know what misandry is, it is the opposite of misogyny. It is a hatred of men simply on the basis that they're men. And I have no idea what is mythological about misandry, but our speaker on a TED Excellence, or TEDx, I should say, is going to tell us. And I'll be following along with my audience and bingo card and all types of fun. So if you'd like to check that out, that'll be happening in just under an hour over on my channel. And yeah, I got one today, and I'll be doing a special Ted's Giving on Thursday of one, maybe two, maybe three TEDx's all in a row just for the hell of it. We'll see what my stamina is on Thursday after all the turkey food.
Well, maybe we'll have to tag team or something on Thursday. We'll talk about
no?
that. But,
okay, yeah, we'll talk
hit me
about
up with
that.
the link for your show tonight, and I'll try to remember to link it to this.
Okay.
So.
But elsewise, guys, yeah, I got to get a few things done before I start that. So, Price, Nick, nice seeing you. Tom, thanks for having me on.
Nice seeing
as
you too,
always.
man.
Nice seeing you. See you next week.
Yep, next week on Nick's show for I must rewatch after years and years and years License to Kill with Timothy Dalton in order to refresh myself on the less. I'll admit, License to Kill is not one of the Bond films I've seen multiple times. So this
I thought
will
it
be
was
almost
License
like
to Drive.
Oh, if only Corey Haim. Anyway, but yeah, guys, have a good evening. Everybody in the chat, be sure to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already to Midnight's Edge After Dark and all these guys on here with me. And I hope you have a good evening, and I hope to see you over on my channel in a little bit if you can. And otherwise, guys, I'll talk to you later as my octave goes higher and higher and higher.
All right, you take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So,
was good.
Price and Nick, you got anything to say on this pay gap thing?
I mean, man, Scribe said, I'm trying to figure out what he didn't say because he covered it so much, like, and things I was good.
I didn't realize he was that into this, or I would have flip flopped the stories because then
that's
you
the
and
thing. I actually pay attention to stuff as well, and obviously, I mean, there's really not much more we can add that he didn't say. I mean, yeah, obviously, these types of like anything I was gonna say about like no matter what they choose, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, that was one of my points. You know, I do wish they did go for it because here's my one concern with this, and it's not just about Disney, but when you do this type of stuff and you settle, these type of people are eventually going to want more, whether it's for a company like Disney or someone else completely. They're going to want to say, okay, well, now we need this and now we need that. And that's the thing I'm actually concerned about is the precedent that this is setting, because we're not just saying, okay, we need to stop giving these types of crazy people what they want. Now we're just like, oh, we just want the problem to go away. And it will. I think it'll go away in a way, also not, because there's going to be the new problem. Oh, you're not paying us enough in this way, or oh, someone is 10 cents off from so-and-so, even though one is far, far, far more qualified. And they're going to change the goalposts, ultimately speaking. It's just going to be another goalpost shift because they can never be satisfied. I mean, this is what happens when you let these type of people in. They will never, ever truly be happy and satisfied. They're just going to take and take and take. To be fair, at least it's for a company who kind of reaps what they sow. So I guess in some ways it's not all bad.
Price, anything to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is all just whatever. It's like a parking ticket for them. Tomorrow, nobody's going to talk about it anymore.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. But people made some good points here. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. It's like I am not surprised at all. I feel like all the hypocrisy in the world, if you really dig, is probably in a company like Disney, and this just is another example of it. But nothing. I don't think anybody is shocked by this.
No. I mean, I'm of two minds. It's kind of nice that it's a black eye on Disney, but I think Scribe made a very valid argument. as to why it's probably a bunch of fugazi at the end of the
May-
day.
Maybe it's true. I mean, listen, I think that maybe it's the truth lies somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Disney has, beyond all of their propaganda and stuff, that they do shady things.
Oh yeah, I'd never put that past them. That's what I'm saying. Like I can believe it. Like yeah. But with that, we got Goddess of Whim sending us in a super sticker. Let me see if I can see what it is. I don't have my thing up here. Like a moron.
But also, maybe maybe the ladies are making a bigger deal of it than what it is. I'd believe anything. You know what I mean? But
right.
everybody that's in that argument deserves each other.
And what Goddess sent us in was a little Shiba dog, farting hearts, and oh no, we have a woman in on the way in to lecture us now.
You know who's even paid less is the representatives of the Latinx transgender community. I am paid less than Andre. I'm paid less than Tom, and I'll bet I'm paid less than Nick Weiser and Price of Reason.
You're paid more than me.
Us.
And I'm here to stand up for rights of trans. When you're a dude and you want to be a woman, is that trans woman or trans dude?
I don't even really know.
I don't know. I love that you have that wig.
Okay, it's a trans woman dude, right? I'm here to stand up for trans woman dude rights and say that this is bullshit. You guys are wrong, and there's a pay gap, and it's because of my new gender.
You know what's even funnier, Price, is that's a Witcher wig.
Hey, don't call me out. Oh, sorry. Hey, don't call me out.
I'm sorry, it's not a wig.
How do you know this isn't my natural hair?
It's actually pretty good looking, except for the little bit there where we can see her hair underneath.
It's a little messy because Price of Reason just left my place this morning and I haven't had a chance.
Oh my. He didn't leave out the window? Hey, how you doing, Mikey? It's been a while. Michelle, I should say.
Hi, Tom.
Is this a preview of tomorrow morning, or?
Oh, good God, no! Andre will kill me if I show up like this in the morning.
For those who don't know, here's a spoiler for the morning show. Andre's not feeling well, so I had to find a new co-pilot for tomorrow. So Mikey stepped in, as he does. So he will be there tomorrow morning on the show, hopefully, if all things go well. So
I'm gonna wash my thong and everything.
I'm glad to know that. No.
You know, I just want to say, I know Price is sitting there like, I thought we kicked this guy off the show earlier this year.
No,
I never.
We
said
have
that.
to keep letting him on for DEI purposes.
No, I like having him on.
Price is like, no, I didn't say that.
I never said
He
that.
even has his own theme song. Are you kidding me? He has like 3 of them.
Yeah. All right, what are we talking about next? What's our next topic?
Well, we didn't have anything specific. We were going to go into super chats and then see what comes up. We got Jason Webster who says, well, everyone can firmly say that 2024 has been Disney's annus horribilis. That sounds very Latin and horrible.
Certainly a lot of anuses there.
Yes.
I think we are at the tip of the ain, and I think
Actually,
we're
I
going to
think
go
that's
fully
horrible
in
year,
2025.
I think that actually translates to horrible year, but my Latin is not the greatest. Jason Webster says, coming soon from master filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola, Disney Apocalypse now. The horror. I love the smell of Goofy in the morning. Dearest sends in 5 and says, pay gap argument was busted by Uber back in 2015 to 17. They released their driver data to a study. It outright showed how men and women did the job. You know what? I bet you women get tipped better as well in general.
Sure.
And Mikey might have something to say about that.
When I lived in Chirac, I knew female bartenders who knew how to play the game as far as getting tips as bartenders, and they leaned in on it. Most of them very heavily, and I'm sure if you're a guy or girl can figure out which way they leaned on it to get that money, and 9 times out of 10, it worked in their favor.
Well, I figured
you
you'd
guys
have
like
something
to know the official findings. Thank you, Dyrus, for that $5 super chat.
Please, I was going to say I'll turn this over to you anyway. I was kind of jumping in with the whole point. Another one of my little sexist points is that I bet tip jobs women get paid a hell of a lot more than men.
Here's some information about gender pay experience. Men tend to have more experience and drive more often. Okay, They tend to have
And
more
also
experience
can't get
and drive
pregnant.
more often.
Maternity
Driving
leave.
speed. Men tend to drive. Who's talking? Men tend to drive slightly faster than women, which allows them to complete more trips per hour. And trip preferences. Women tend to prefer shorter, safer trips, while men are more likely to take longer trips and drive in riskier areas.
I'm going to remember that the next time a chick wants me to take her to Hawaii.
They actually went. They actually did the study, and it helped them preventively with a massive lawsuit that they were potentially going to face. And it was pretty fair because there's like 57.4% male Uber drivers versus 42.6% female drivers.
Well, honestly, if I was a woman, I necessarily wouldn't want a job like that because that puts you in a vulnerable spot.
I can tell you this much, not to sell things out, but me and Nick was visiting me for a week and a half here at Casa Mexican Ironman, and this last week, and we Saturday night after a day of shooting and doing America on the gun range, we went to a Hooters, and I'll tell you this much, I definitely tipped that chick way more than I do the average dude at the bar who might be.
You doubled the tip, right?
Hey, you bailed on. I was supposed to meet with you, and you bailed on.
That was back in October. I'm free now.
You bailed.
I had jury duty. I was up on a murder
Yeah, that was
trial.
jury duty time. You got to understand with Mike, he's busy 1 second, free the next, busy 2 seconds after that.
You can come for Thanksgiving price. So can you?
Mike is actually still answering a text from like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God, you just sold me out on Twitter, didn't you? Yeah, I did. I just opened my Twitter DM. Andre sent me a message like a week and a half ago. Are you still online? Hello.
He has been in panic mode, brother. But anyway, that's a total different situation, story, conversation to be had. But anyhow, so yeah, I don't know if you had more to say on that note.
If you're like a woman that looks good in a bikini and you open an Instagram account, who do you think is going to make more money, you or her?
Of course, a woman in any.
That's what I'm saying.
Situation.
That there's jobs that they get more attention for. Like there's certain things that they can do that I will never make money off of.
But they get more paid time off. They get more days off, excuse days off, without having to worry about doctor's notes and shit like men do. And I know it's probably stuff that you're like, well, no, it says it in the handbook. I don't give a fuck what it says in the handbook. I've worked in enough places where women get away with so much more than men in most situations. And in other situations, men get away with a hell of a lot more than women usually do. It is just the way the world works. And is it ever going to be perfect? No. But I think we need to just come to a point where I think we've realized that we've gotten pretty goddamn close to where things are evened out. There's still areas where women are always going to be better at the jobs than men and vice versa. Or unless there's an exception to the rule like a gay man.
Yeah, and I'm
right?
never
like,
bitter. And
like,
you know what's what the difference is? I mean, okay, a little bitter, but I'm saying like I don't like if there's a woman that started an Instagram account, she looks good in a bikini. I mean, there's nothing. I can let it slide. It's fine. That's what she does. That's why men like it, and men like it, and she can make money being a model.
Being in this business, you almost have to try to let go of that kind of shit early on, or it's gonna fucking haunt you.
Right, exactly. But I'm saying like I'm not genuinely bitter about it. But I'm just saying I can let that slide. So they should be able to let slide other things. That probably didn't sound very good.
Nick, save us. Say something gay.
Oh, gay. I'm gonna come on you.
That was lame. Oh, that was better.
Mikey, say something.
Mike,
shit, you're gonna tank the stream.
Oh shit, he already did. No, Mike. So since we got through all our stories already, I don't know if you wanted to.
I'm not gonna respond to your misgendering.
Oh, Michelle, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead now.
Michelle, did you want to comment on any of the stories we already covered, since we didn't have necessarily anything else to cover per se?
No, I just want to cash my check from the lawsuit. I'm suing Tom and Midnight's Edge After Dark for everything he's got.
You can take half of nothing, and that's what I got.
Oh. Okay.
Look how good he is with math. That's how I know you're not a woman. That was sexist as hell. So yeah. Has anybody seen anything lately they want to talk about, or any plans? We got any plans coming up for Thanksgiving, Mike?
Yeah, Lauren and Max and his mom arrive tomorrow. It's the first. It'll be
Ooh.
tomorrow. This is a heroic day because I've been working towards this for literally a year, and this is the first time that my kid will be with me on Thanksgiving at my place.
Really?
Versus me having to like go see him
Well, that's
at
true.
his grandparents' house. This will be my first family Thanksgiving together in 8 years.
Wow. Yeah,
And mom's here.
That's awesome, man. You get the whole fam together for once. That's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got to start driving now so I can be there. Your mom called and said I have to get down there.
Dude, your mom, you've been on the phone with my mom. She told
Yeah,
you, she like, don't even get me started. Yeah. She's like, oh, hi, Nick. Are you the one that Mike does Tuesdays and Thursday nights? She's like, no, I'm the fella from Friday afternoons and Saturdays.
You should be able to tell from the sound of his voice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying when he first walked in the door.
I'm Nick.
Said, oh, you're not Tom.
How's my Nick impression? Is it pretty good?
You and Loki, she's known the longest, actually, now that I think about it. You and Loki, she's known the
Huge.
That's Nick. That's the other Nick.
Well,
and Doomcock, that's the other one.
Mike. I'm sure Price is
Nick, and then there's the Nick Weiser.
Yeah, he's talking about Echo Base Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Oh, you were talking about Echo
okay,
Base?
no offense taken. I know you're friends with Nick from Echo Base.
I was thinking we should have been more clear about that since we have a Nick on the panel earlier. But
it's all good.
he's usually Nick Weiser. So
Yes.
Will y'all should watch Star Wars?
now mine was better.
Yours was better.
Is Nick still suffering through those modern Star Wars shows?
Oh no, I hope not.
What modern Star Wars shows? Oh yeah, the next one, the skeleton crap. Yeah, that's coming out.
Oh yeah, that is coming out. I forgot about that. Holy crud,
Oh, interesting.
man!
Dude, I'm not watching any. Dude, I just finished binge watching, like, cause I've been binge watching, like, in the middle, like it's taken me forever, but I just got done with the first 3 seasons of Superman and Lois.
I've heard that was good.
Fucking loved it.
That's good. I'm glad you like it. That's fantastic. There, it seems like there's more than, I guess you could say, 2 good shows going on that people are enjoying, and that's good. Hopefully,
I mean, yeah, it's a little CWE, it's got your typical, Dawson's Creek vibe here and there, sprinkled, but overall it's fucking fantastic.
It's the CW.
I love it.
Oh, good.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong gender again. Sorry. What do you guys think? Do you think I can pass off as a woman at a bar?
You would definitely pass out as a woman at the bar if you had a lot of drinks.
Look, Tom, I'm twirling my hair at you. You know what that means, don't you?
Help?
Oh, for God's sake. I'm flirting. Jeez.
I know. That's why I said help. ActionCom sends in 20 and says, I saw this interesting documentary about Alaska versus Hawaii. Fascinating thing is how broke Hawaii is. United States Navy and tourism is all they have. Alaska is so much oil money they can give it to their citizens. Yeah, actually, like I've heard, like if you move up there, they give you money for moving up there and shit. I didn't know Hawaii was that broke though. Is tourism that bad right now that they're really hurting? Do they have no other industries whatsoever?
No, they don't.
Wow. I mean, I know they are small islands, so I guess. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they need to try getting some more movies made there. Jay sends in $3, says 3 cheers to the 3 beers for Mexican Iron Man.
Thank
There
you,
go.
Jay.
Ooh.
It would be Mexican
3 cheers
Iron
to
Woman
beer.
Man now.
By the
I
way,
guess.
Right.
for Christmas, I'm getting him. You know what's going to be underneath his tree? Is a naked 4-foot wide picture of George Clooney.
You've been listening, haven't you?
Of course I have. I'm always listening.
Did you hear what I thought about the movie Wicked?
No, I missed that. What'd you say?
Nothing. Never mind.
Oh,
He's
I
been
missed
getting
that.
his ass kicked by all the women, but like if he had me as a lawyer on his side, he could cremate them.
Dude, I'm not watching that bullshit.
I got so many negative comments. Probably the most I've ever gotten on a video.
He stood up to like all the women's. And they all came at him. They're just like, all at once, they're just like, Wicked is greater than Pinky Green. Gravity. But it's not the same thing. Poor guy. If he had me as a lawyer, I'd be like, objection, overruled, court dismissed.
The funniest one was that they said, like, what's the matter with you? Don't you know that L. Frank Baum was a tea activist, like a Transformers activist, and he loved feminism? It's like, I don't know what it is that you're talking about, but that guy in 1900 did not promote Transformers.
There wasn't anything close to like there's really
cross-dressing.
I don't know about that. I don't know if you want
to delusional people in my comments. That's all I'll say.
Look, I know more about Wizard of Oz than most straight men should. I get it. That's the problem with this franchise. It has been, first of all, hijacked by the gay community. Second of all of a sudden now it's known as a girl property. It's like Price and I had this conversation the other day. Problem with this is that, to me, Wizard of Oz has always been a property for everybody.
It was a family movie that people on holidays watched together as a family, and it was a nice thing that families did. First, like you said, they made it into the LG thing, and then they're making about women in LG, and it's like, and then, you know, somebody told me, you know, Angry Badger, who's a friend of mine, you know, I was on some stream with him, and he was like, oh, let the women have this. But I'm tired of letting women have everything. Why do they get to keep everything? You know what? If I would have
already,
if I would have had Star Wars and Star Trek and you know, a bunch of other ones that you know, we can argue that have been sort of ruined, and all they wanted was that one, maybe you could say, fine, let them have it. Right, but that's not the case. They want everything and that too. So at some point, you know what? I don't mind being the party pooper. I don't mind coming in and saying, like, no, fuck you. Like, you don't get this. The Wizard of Oz doesn't like to abuse animals. Fuck you.
Well, and that's one of the things that I was talking to you about too, because I didn't even know about that until you had brought it up. And there's been people trying to argue with me. And their thing is, when they get pissy with me, their thing is, well, go see the movie so then you can actually have it's like, do I really need to see it?
No, you don't.
Because here's the thing. In the actual world of, and I brought this up to you, in the actual world, from my memory of the books, all the animals talk in Oz. It doesn't matter. And Toto can actually talk too, because they brought it up at one point. He finally just says, I have nothing to say.
Right.
Like, it's a joke. Like, because everything talks in Oz. It has nothing to do with the wizard. The wizard isn't a real wizard. And this is the other thing that we keep getting an argument. They're like, oh, he's a bad guy. I'm like, is he though? I think he's a representation of government who tries to do the best thing, but at the same time is... He was not an evil
man that wanted to hurt animals in any of the other versions of the Wizard of Oz. The fact that they made him like the patriarch, evil, sinister Wizard of Oz that wants to hurt animals, I don't know why. That was like where they crossed the line, and I just think that that's crappy, and it's really hard to overlook what they've done. It's shitty propaganda, and I don't like it.
Because at the end of the day, the Wizard is not a bad guy.
I don't want to give it to women, and I don't want to give it to the LG community. It was a family-friendly property. Families sat around. I sat with family, you know, with my family on holidays. We watched it together. Growing up as a kid, I thought it was fine. There was nothing LG or women feminism or all this other nonsense that had nothing to do with it. It had nothing to do with the patriarchy. It was just a nice family entertainment. And I guess a lot of like sort of dudes are just like, well, you know, I don't really this. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. And it's okay. I understand that as well. But I'm just saying that it didn't used to be. It was another one of those things that were hijacked. And we love that we get everything hijacked. Everything gets hijacked, and we're supposed to say it's great. No matter what, we're supposed to say it's great, and that all the messaging should be that the patriarchy is bad and that men are stupid, and we have to say thank you all the time. And I don't want to say thank you.
Yeah, because that's my problem with it. It sounds like they go out of their way to make the wizard the cause of all the problems. And in fact, you want a spoiler? Anybody who doesn't want a spoiler, plug your ears. I believe if they go through with this in Wicked, he's their father. Or one of their fathers.
Right,
anyway.
I think he's the wicked witch of the thing.
Yes, it's her father.
I think there's
so stupid, because here's the other thing. The witches were never sisters until the fucking movie. Here's the other thing they keep saying is like, well, it's its own thing, No, it's not. It's built off the MGM movie, because 90% of everything we associate with Wizard of Oz now comes from that movie, unfortunately, or fortunately. And that comes down everything from the ruby slippers to the way the yellow brick road is actually presented. It is a yellow road in the book, but it's not the yellow brick road. It's the brick of. There's a lot of little things that are different, but there's some major things that are different in between the two. The witch is described as completely different. The witches are not sisters. There's 4 fucking. Actually, there's a lot more than 4 witches, but there's a witch of the north, the south, the east, and the west. And the problem with the MGM movies, especially if you're going to build upon that, is that the MGM movie doesn't think about the fact that they turn Glinda into a bad person because they combine 2 fucking characters. Because the first character who sends Dorothy down the yellow brick road with the silver slippers in the book has no idea how to get her home. So she sends her to Glinda. Glinda knows how to get her home. The problem with having Glinda in the beginning and doing what she does, and this is what makes it funny because it turns the whole thing into a joke, is that because Glinda comes in and she seals those shoes to Dorothy, nobody can take them from her other than by killing her. So and then she sends her down the yellow brick road to the wizard instead of just telling her to tap her feet together and go home. So at that point, that makes her the bad guy in the situation, if you think about it. The wizard partially is a bad guy because he wants the broom, because he wants to take away the witch's power, because he has a personal vendetta that isn't brought up in the book or in the movie because it's from the book, because they had a battle years ago and she enslaved the Winkies, or basically used them. He had them enslaved before, and then she unenslaved them and then re-enslaved them, basically, is what she did. And then she also has the flying monkeys, which are actually enslaved as well, and they don't bring that up in the movie. So she is such a bad guy that, like, yeah.
I mean, here's another thing, and yes, I'm basing a lot of it. Let's separate here. I understand that the books are different also from the 1939 movie. For me, the 1939 movie, that's a timeless classic.
Well, the only other thing I was going to bring about the 39 film is that's also where we got the look of the witch. That's how that was the first time we ever had a green witch with the black pointy hat and all that shit from my memory.
And I think you and I talked about this, like, outside of a stream, that basically what this movie is doing, especially the cinematic version of this Wicked thing, it basically is tapping in to your understanding of the 1939 movie, of how it's ingrained in pop culture, and it's building on that. Even if you look at some of the marketing for this movie, the trailers, they're like, before there was Dorothy, there was this, before there was this, there was that. They're really trying to give you a feeling of, oh, you like the 1939 movie, this is a prequel to that movie. And a lot of people that aren't you and I, Tom, that are just your average run-of-the-mill people that don't give a shit about all the stuff that we give, and that's most of the people in the world. You and I are very nitpicky. Most people don't give a shit about what we give a shit about. They just go to the theater, and they don't think about it, and they take their family, and they're like, oh, it's the prequel to Wizard of Oz. And then they sit there, and they see that the wizard likes to torture animals, and the green, witch, like you said, that she's green, like in the 1939 movie, she's a victim because of the color of her skin, and all the other people around her are terrible oppressors. I just can't stand this crap. I can't stand it. And the fact that some ladies at some point came to New York and drank some Long Island iced tea and saw this at Broadway and got drunk and thought it was like a cool thing to watch on Broadway, that doesn't mean that I have to sit back and look at this and say, this is great messaging. This is so great that they took another classic cinematic masterpiece, took a dump on it. And because, men think it's kind of, sorry for lack of a better word, gay or whatever it is, I think that this was a family-friendly property and that they ruined it, and all the men are just, rolled over. That's what I think.
Yeah, and the Tin Man's a great example of why the witch is a bad person. For those who don't know how the Tin Man became the Tin Man, the Wicked Witch of the West put a spell over him and made him chop his fucking limbs off to the point where nothing was left but a Tin Man. Because every time he'd chop a limb off, he'd have to build another piece to replace it. But he couldn't stop himself from chopping off his limbs. That's how fucked up some of this shit is in that book. Like, there's some really fucked up shit in the books. And Tin Man kills a lot of fucking things too. Like, he don't fucking ask questions. He just kills.
Tom, as part of my transition, there was a lot of chopping going on.
Oh, there's a hell of a lot of chopping going on in the books too. So maybe there's that parallel.
Maybe the books, are darker and whatever it is in the 1939 movie. I'll give you that.
And this was the other thing too. Yeah, they make this is the other part too. They make the wizard a grapist. They make him Bill Cosby, basically.
In Wicked.
Yes, in the
Yes.
book. I don't know if they're going to do that in the play, but
Yeah, and I
Or
have
in
to
the
point
movie,
out
I
another
mean,
thing
but-
that most people are always, and I said this in my video, and people were having meltdowns. This guy, Gregory Maguire, that wrote Wicked, that wrote the book, he basically was whatever we see like activists today that annoy us, and we say like we don't like that these kind of activism and entertainment. He was exactly that dude. He was a guy that in 1995, when he wrote this book, he absolutely wanted to take a property that people liked with a movie in mind, the 1939 movie, and repurpose it to be sort of what's considered very woke propaganda. It's just in 1995 people didn't know what woke propaganda was, and initially he wrote that book, and for years nobody gave a shit about it because it was a piece of shit that nobody cared about. And then some guy that wanted to do a Broadway play read it and said, oh, what if I kind of make it a little nicer and a little more tied to the 1939 movie? Maybe we can soften some of this propaganda, and there will be enough like gay people and women on Broadway that'll go watch this, and maybe we can make money. And somehow they got away with it. The IP was big enough and they got away with it. They pulled it off. But the fact that they pulled it off on Broadway, that's one thing. And then taking that thing and putting it in a 2024 movie that's even 5 times more woke than the original Broadway play that really tries to hammer these points in, the modern day ideologies, I think that that's really taking a dump on The Wizard of Oz, which was once a family-friendly property. And nobody cares, I understand it, and you can all say I'm crazy, but it is the truth, and I don't like rolling over.
Unless you're in bed with me.
That's true. That would be the only case. That would be the only case, Michelle. That would be the only time.
Oh,
well,
that was
there's only
amazing.
a few. The problem is, even with your transition, there's only a few positions that are natural. The rest kind of feel weird. But that being said, no, I agree with you, Price. And like I said, I know way too much about this. And yeah, somebody was saying about the continuity in the books is, yeah, it is kind of fucked up. The problem with the books is like anything can happen at any time. There's no real rules in Oz. And that's kind of the problem is Oz is like uncontrolled chaos. And when the wizard showed up, he was the first one to kind of bring some control to the area or whatever you want to call it, the place, whatever it is. Because in the books, it is a real place, unlike the movies. That's one of the other things. Otherwise, the movie, the first MGM movie, that book, it's pretty close to the book. There's just a few various differences in like the visual things and stuff they did, mainly for like the Technicolor aspect, like the ruby slippers, making the witch green and all that kind of stuff. That was all just because of the color part of it. And those things are now things that we just adapt to it, right? Like the Over the Rainbow song and all that kind of stuff. All that
witch
was just
is evil. She's always been evil. She's the
she's
very
always been
definition.
evil.
She was one of the biggest villains ever in cinema. She's an iconic villain. And all these feminists that love to talk about women here and women there you go. That was a female villain that everybody was worried about. All the little kids saw that female villain and were like, wow, she is the epitome of evil. And there was a female protagonist and everybody liked her. And everything that these, wackos claim to want was all in that movie. But no, they have to take it a step further. The Wizard of Oz likes to torture animals.
Well, and John Evans says the slippers were silver in the book. Yeah, I brought that up too. Not only that, they weren't sisters. The Wicked Witch could give a fuck about the other witch being dead. She just wanted the slippers. That's all she wanted. In
this movie, they made the sister that she's in a wheelchair. So she's this stunning and brave, diverse woman in a wheelchair. So now, when Dorothy crushes her with the house, Dorothy ended up killing a disabled woman that was stunning and brave, making Dorothy look bad as well. And that's also part of their bullshit propaganda. And people, oh, don't you like the music? You're taking it too seriously. No, and the music is shit too. All of it is shit. Why can't people just admit that it's shit? And they're like, it's going to make one person wrote to me, that movie is going to make at the box office more than you'll ever make on YouTube. And you know what? That is true. That is a very dumb comment, and it's absolutely true. I'm not going to make $1 billion on YouTube. It's fine.
I bet you if you go by scales, percentage-wise, you'll probably end up making more. Because this movie's not going to make $1 billion like everybody thinks it's going to.
I think it possibly. There's a lot of women that want to go see it over and over again. But I feel like it's a sham. I dislike this sham. I feel like there's a lot of people getting carried away with this thing, and even a lot of women that are sort of putting aside any kind of even women that usually call out stuff like this are like, well, they're singing and dancing.
Yeah, but it opened lower than Barbie. It's got more competition than Barbie had. It doesn't have. They couldn't make Glicked happen like they did Barbenheimer, and that's I think the key right there is because what Barbenheimer did. That's the only reason Barbie made $1 billion. Because I always knew it was going to do well. And I said, I think it's going to break $1 billion, but I was never as positive about that one as I was like, say, Deadpool and Wolverine or stuff like that. Because of Barbenheimer. Because you had the men going with the women and the women going with the men. And the fact that those two box offices were almost like neck and neck the whole way through almost.
This is like a poor man's Barbenheimer, but I do think
it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And there's too much other competition is what it's going to get to. And because, if anything, the gay crowd might keep the movie going longer. I'm not saying it won't. They're going to re-release it again on Christmas with a sing-along version. And I don't know how well that's going to do. It's going to get crushed. I think it's going to get crushed by Nasferatu. I think the women, because here's the thing, women don't tend to go to movies more than once. They do sometimes, but very rarely. And Barbie might have been one of those.
This is a movie that they may get repeat viewings. I think
maybe, but I don't know. My point is I think it's got a lot more competition coming up, going against it. You even got Moana 2 coming out this weekend, and regardless of what the reviews have been, you know the parents are going to take their kids to it on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, they probably are.
I'm not.
And Moana is also like an hour and hour longer than Barbie too. That's another problem.
Oh, you know what?
Wicked,
it is very long. It is a very
Wicked is
long
almost
movie.
3 hours long, and Barbie was under 2
so
hours.
long.
So that's the big difference there too.
And unnecessarily long. There's no reason. Later I read they're like, well, they took the first act of the movie and they made it of the play and made it much longer. Why? It was already bad enough to begin with. Why would you need to make it longer? I sat in the theater and I couldn't believe how long it was.
I mean, again, I'm not saying it won't break $1 billion, but I think it's got a lot harder road to hit that $1 billion than Barbie does.
Maybe, but I think that
Barbie did. Sorry.
You know, unless I see something that gives me a different feeling, I feel like this thing has potential to break $1 billion. If not, 750 million, I think it can make.
I think the women are going to be paying attention to Nasferatu. I think there might be another movie or two to come out between here and there that might get their attention.
I think only you and I are going to go see Nosferatu. These ladies are going to go sing along.
No, I'm going to be there opening day.
Don't underestimate women and vampires, dude. Never underestimate women and vampires and Victorian era shit. Oh my God. Never, ever. That's why Bram Stoker's Dracula did so well. People forgot how well that movie made almost $300 million at the box office in 1992.
All right, let's see what happens.
Punchline for years, but it changed vampire films. I have a feeling that this one may have that potential again. I don't think it's going to be as big as Bram Stoker's Dracula was.
That one had
Eggers
Keanu
for some reason just doesn't
Winona
have
Ryder. It had all these hip whatever. They made it like an event. I don't know if this is going to work in the same way, but I'm hopeful that you're right because I like Nosferatu. I like the original, and I'm hoping that they do something good here. So I'm rooting for it much more than Wicked, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It was 10 in the 92 box office. Yeah, I had a lot of stuff.
Expected to do big numbers because I'm not expecting it to be.
Again, I don't know if it's going to do as big and as well as that. Like, because Eggers just doesn't have that historical.
No, he doesn't. And
but I believe this is supposed to be.
I just want to be good.
But I believe this is supposed to be his biggest, most commercial opening ever, though. So that being said.
Yeah, but is that biggest for hit ... for him? Because if we're talking like this,
yes, but they've got merchandising. It's got its own popcorn bucket.
This isn't going to be like $100 million opener. It's maybe what 30, 40, $50 million opener.
I could think it could surprise with 60 or 70.
Okay. Hey,
I don't remember what else because it comes out on Christmas. They're re-releasing Wicked that day, and I'm trying to remember what else comes out on Christmas. The Mufasa, and I don't think Mufasa is going to do very well. I think whatever crowd was going to go see Mufasa is going to be soaked up mainly by Wicked, and a lot of the women who had already seen Wicked are probably going to be more interested in seeing Lily Rose Depp and those fancy boys in Nosferatu. Now, I don't know if they're going to like it as much because I think they're going to expect a typical kind of vampire movie. And I think that's where they're smart and also doing a disservice to themselves by hiding Nosferatu throughout the advertising campaign. Because if you're not familiar with what Nosferatu is, you're going to think this is just like another kind of thing. You just know the name because you've heard it before or something like that. And and you see the Victorian era type clothing and costume drama shit. And it's obviously a Dracula story. So they'll probably get into that, but then when they realize how ugly he is, I don't know if that's going to resonate or not. We'll see.
That's not going to resonate. That's not going to resonate at all. But it'll be curious to see what they do with the marketing for this.
Yeah, because you don't have the beauty of Bram Stoker's Dracula with the whole romance element to it. It doesn't have that, so we'll see.
I can't wait for Nasferatu. I think, and you know me, I usually are swear up and down about having interest in the remakes, but that one I'm actually looking forward to. Of course, me and the kids will all go see Sonic 3 as well. So
That's
we
another
don't
thing it
have-
has for everything's going to be competing with that. See, and this is going to be, I think,
I
Sonic's
think
biggest
Sonic
movie.
3 is gonna be the Christmas hit of the week that whole time right there from there into.
I will step back and say
2025.
tops is probably Nosferatu 40 because yeah, you're right. I think Sonic's going to have like a 50-60 million dollar opening. if
Are
not
they
more.
the same weekend?
I think so.
What,
Holy
Sonic and
crud.
Nosferatu or the
I
same
thought
weekend?
they were all
Sonic,
week apart.
Nosferatu, and Mufasa all open on Christmas week, if I remember right.
I'm all
They're
for
gonna
Sonic.
slaughter each other out.
I'm all
That's
for
what I was
they're
trying to
gonna
say.
each
Is
other
like this is
out.
why I don't think Wicked has the legs that everybody fucking thinks it does. There is so
But-
much. You got Moana 2 just opened up today.
Yeah, but see, here's the advantage Wicked has, though. They have 3-4 weeks on those movies. I'm looking, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking at-
Moana 2 just opened up, and what comes out next week then? Let me just look here.
I've never seen Moana 1, so I'm not going to watch Moana 2.
Oh, but
Well, yeah,
Moana's
but
huge.
Moana 1 did very well. It's not about
I say,
how.
Nick, you got a little
Is it any
girl, so
good?
you
Is that
know-
any good, though?
Well,
I was gonna say,
okay.
let Nick take this one.
When
So-
so when it was brand new, my kids, were into it when they were smaller. I mean, they're not really invested in those type of movies now, but we watched a lot when they're smaller, and it was I guess you could say a little bit of a better time for those movies because it was an original property. As
Yeah.
far as my personal thoughts, even though it's not designed for me, which I'm very well aware of, for what it was entertaining. Obviously, it's got very memorable songs, and it did very, very well. And it was a big thing when that came out. So, as far as the sequel, here's what I'm like wonder if it's gonna be like doing as well because it felt like one of those movies. Well, once again, Moana was one of those movies that wrapped up in a nice bow. It didn't leave a thread hanging. Didn't feel like when Toy Story ended, oh hey, I could use another, and then Toy Story 2 comes out. Or you can look at a lot of the others.
Well, I'm sure Andre will have to go see it. I mean, I guess your kid isn't as into it as his, but like, yeah.
Well, my kids are. I mean, if they tell me somehow that they want to see it, hey, I'll be dad and do it. But right now, my girls are like, I want to see Sonic 3. Both of them want to
But
see.
I was gonna
Sonic
say,
3.
besides Sonic 3 and Mufasa, we've got the War of
There's no
Rohirrim
interest
coming
in
out.
Mufasa at all. At all.
There's
Oh,
Craven. There's
Craven.
I'm just saying, I mean, there is a bunch of movies. Smurfs, I guess, is supposed to be coming out as well, a new Smurfs movie. So
Craven.
there is some competition coming up. Look, I'm not gonna say, look, women like what's his face. You can't deny that.
It doesn't
Aaron
matter.
Taylor Johnson or whatever his name is.
Craven's gonna be a bomb of bombs.
Yeah, probably. I'm not gonna I wouldn't put no money on that bitch.
Oh man. Okay, I'm looking at the release date. So
But Bill's not wrong. I think some ladies will turn out for that shirtless buff dude.
shirtless buff.
Yeah, there's a few other movies coming out, but those are the bigger films. So I mean, there is some competition coming up in comparison to what Barbie and Oppenheimer dealt with in the meanwhile.
Okay,
in the
I
meanwhile.
just checked.
We got to get to these super chats here.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead. What you're gonna say? Go ahead.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has 5 days in the United States to coop up any money that they could potentially lose. Not that obviously it's a polarizingly different movie from Nosferatu because Nosferatu is exactly on Christmas Day, whereas Sonic is December 20th. So they have 5 days to really hit. No pun intended. Sonic is to really hit the ground running.
Well, and that depends on the area and if the
And
schools
what's
are
the
out
other
already.
movie? And what's the third movie that's supposed to come out that week? Oh, Mufasa.
Mufasa and Wicked is getting re-released in the sing-along version, and I think Craven comes out the week before, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, but
And
that's
there's a few movies that
irrelevant.
come out the 12th as well. I think it is.
Okay, Mufasa is 2 days before Sonic, so basically, oh wow, Mufasa's gonna.
Sonic's
yeah.
gonna eat Mufasa's lunch.
Yeah, it is,
And I'm going to
It
be
is.
happy. I'm going to be happy to see that.
I can't wait to see Sonic. Shadow Man.
Because there ain't gonna be
Gotta
one
read.
kid. There's not one kid that I can think of ever that is gonna go, what do you want to see? You want to go see Mufasa or you want to go see Sonic 3? What kid is gonna go say Mufasa?
Right? No kid ever.
No, I think
you might
everybody's going to go
get
for
some
Sonic.
kids who
And I'll
watch The
tell
Lion
you-
King. But even Lion King fans who are kids aren't going to want a movie on Mufasa. Doesn't make any.
I'll tell
damn
you,
sense.
I've seen a few movies in the last few months in theaters, and they've had the Mufasa and the Sonic 3 trailer tagged to most of the films. And of the two, the Sonic 3 trailer always gets a reaction from the audience. The Mufasa one, mostly murmurs and whatnot. Nothing otherwise. So yeah, I don't feel like Mufasa's got any buzz behind it at all. Sonic is going to do well. Now, I don't know if it's going to do as well as a lot of people think it's going to do, but I mean, I think it's going to do the best of the three so far. But Goddess of Whim sent us in a $5 super chat way earlier on. So we got to get to this here. She's been patient, waiting in the chat if she's still with us. Says, I wasn't interested in Wicked on Broadway, and I'm not interested in the movie. I'm actually scared of the theater kids and gays in the fandom. Well, you know, it's funny you say that, Goddess of Whim, because that's one thing a lot of patrons have been complaining about, the people they've had to deal with, the mega fans of Wicked, right? So that's the problem, too, you have, Price, right? Is you have Wizard of Oz fans and you have Wicked fans. There's two different ones. Now, there's some crossover, don't get me wrong, especially probably in more of the gay community than not. But that's a problem. It's because, yeah, you got these diehard Wicked people who've seen the Broadway play like 30 fucking times and shit, right? So, like, to them, this is their fucking Super Bowl. And I don't want to take that away from them, but I agree with you, Price. That's the problem I have with it, too. If we hadn't lost so much along the way already, I would not care so much. But now I'm sitting here being told that this is only a girl thing. It's like, why? And honestly, I said it back then. I think God's Great and Powerful did it better anyhow. Beat him to the punch by making a movie of it first. It just sucked that Disney didn't care and they didn't continue the series. But that was actually connected to the original film. They actually
Right,
paid the
that was
rights.
better.
Yeah.
Not
Garrus
perfect,
is-
but better.
Yeah, Sam Raimi had a lot of plans for that, actually.
And there was potential there. He there were some missteps there. Maybe some of the casting I would
Yeah.
have done differently, but I
Yeah.
think that there was potential for that movie, and it certainly felt more like the Wizard of Oz than this Wicked thing. But the Wicked thing is trying to pass as a Wizard of Oz thing, and that's what people don't understand. But whatever.
Well, and it worked under the auspice, or if that's the word I'm looking for, of the whole idea of what was to come in the MGM film, right? Like, the wizard is a kind of bumbling fool, but he's not a bad guy, right?
Right,
Glenda
right.
is a bit more of a bitch. She is clearly kind of one of the who's the one who's more responsible for the, you know. And then on the other end, you have the Wicked Witch and her side of it too. I haven't seen it in a few years, but yeah, I agree with you. Franco is the obvious sore thumb of the film. Let's be real. We all know that. And it's not and honestly, it's not his personal shit that I have a problem with. It's just like most people, he's kind of miscast in these roles when he was getting cast in them. Like, even though I don't dislike him, I think he's fine. I don't care. But yeah, I agree. He was miscast in that, and I can't buy him as a scientist in Rise of the Planet of the Apes either. Just can't. So yeah, no. Gare asks if there's any truth to the Idris Elba Motu rumor. I don't think it's a rumor. I think that was an actual announcement from my memory. We just hadn't got a chance to discuss it yet on any of the streams. I think we did did we talk a little bit about it the other night? I know I talked about it somewheres. But the problem with this is this is not a horrible choice if it wasn't in the world we live in right now. If this was 10, 15 years ago, I'd be like, all right, I guess. So you're going with the whole she's adopted daughter, not him and the sorceress got together. Okay, cool. Because there's various versions of the mythos. My thing is, this movie's fucked anyway. So, but I don't know what you guys feel about this. I know, Mikey, you're a fan of Motu, Masters of the Universe. What do you feel about Idris Elba playing Man-at-Arms?
Dude, get the fuck out of here with that casting. Get the fuck out of here with that casting. That's what I got to say about it.
Honestly, since Kurt Russell and fucking Tom Selleck and what's his face from Roadhouse are too old, Sam Elliott now to play the role, I can't say he's the worst choice. But again, I'm so sick of the race swapping shit.
Right.
That's what it is for me. I'm just sick of this race swapping shit. I mean, maybe you can pull it off.
See, the conflict here is that I agree with you both on one hand, but on the other hand, Idris Elba is a good actor. So
Yeah,
That's what I mean. He's the type. He's the right type. That's all that matters, right? And most Masters of the Universe, for the most part, there is no real race thing set. I mean, you got fucking blue people, for fuck's sake. That's not my problem
Look,
here.
dude, I got so many more problems before I even get to his race.
Yeah.
this property has just been decimated for me.
That's my point here. If anything, this is probably the one bright light so far of the whole
I
thing.
mean, I'm not like how like says like I'm like I don't know what to read. I don't know, dude. I've got so many problems that have nothing to do with race, like story and just.
I mean, like I said, honestly, you could do a hell of a lot worse for Man at Arms.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
He's got the right persona, the right charisma, the right age. He's the right look, even though he's black. I don't care about that part. He has all those qualities that you would want in your Man at Arms. That's not my problem. I'm with you guys. I'm more worried about the rest of this production.
Yeah, it's kind of like I can't get riled up about this when I got so.
I'm not even that upset about Latina fucking. We got Latina Tila. I don't know if you guys saw that or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I forgot the actress's name.
You
But
want to go there with me? Let's go fucking there. Fuck that cat.
Yeah, does somebody remember the actress's name in the chat or on the panel here? The because this is another one we didn't talk much about. We did a little, but not much about the casting of Tila. Because yeah, that's another ginger side casting.
Exactly. Fuck that shit. And I'm not one of these like, oh, I need to see my people on screen. Now, fuck my people. Let's let's go watch.
T-Lex.
Let's go watch. Let's do another Made in New York movie and have some brown girls in that shit. Fuck. Let's go remake that with let's replace Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, I'm like you, Aaron. I'm more worried about the story. Nobody remembers who it was. I'll have to look it up here. We got Sean in the chat. How you doing, Sean? You had a birthday the other day. Happy birthday, Sean. Hope you had a happy birthday. Let me look this up here. Who it was that Tila's casted as?
God, I got so many other problems before we would get to that shit. Like seriously.
Camila Mendez is who's playing.
Who I'm sure is attractive. Is she? Do we have any photos? I'm sure she's attractive. I just hope she better not be like another one of these razor thin chicks that's never had a Whopper no onion combo.
Doesn't look anything like Tila.
Fuck this movie then. Fuck this movie.
And we got the extra strong Tila next to her.
My Tila needs to have red hair and be smoking hot voluptuous. Like I should have no shot going up to the castle bar, right? Like
you could take her home, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Like this casting, like give me an hour or two at the Standard Bar in Hollywood. I mean, give me an hour or two and let me talk her up. Hey, I may be Mexican, but I live on Hilton Head. I live on an island. What are you doing later? Let's go. Tila's gonna tell me to go fly the fuck off, and I'll be lucky if she doesn't make a phone call. The next thing I know, I got fucking a thunderbolt up my ass and a tiger not eating my nardos. You know what I mean?
Honestly, this chick, I wouldn't say she's the worst choice for like an Evil Lynn. You could make her look more like an Evil Lynn, but even Evil Lynn, nah, I'm not buying this. I'm more. Yeah.
This doesn't look good. Yeah, I agree.
No.
I can't believe it, but I agree with Mikey.
No, yeah, I'm not sold. And then it's nothing against the actress personally.
Bryce is laughing because he's like, for the first time, I agree with something that comes out of Mikey's mouth.
No, I actually have agreed with you before, but in this case, listen, she's not the worst looking lady, but I agree with you. There should be somebody really, really drop dead. I know this. I sound like such an asshole, but
look,
it has to be
an
like
R8. Let me meet this chick at the Standard. Let me tell her about my house on Hilton Head Island. Next thing you know, I got her digits. We're fucking going to Rio for the weekend. You know what I'm saying?
It has to be
like gonna tell me to fly the
super
fuck
hot.
off.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Damn it! All the women that I can think of that would be perfect for it are too old.
Tila's gonna turn around and tell me I need to go mow her lawn, and not the right kind of lawn. She's gonna send me out back behind the castle, and I gotta go fucking do landscaping. That's what Tila will tell me. What?
Hey, Poppy, if you do some landscaping, then
exactly, it'll be like that. Poppy, maybe if you clean my pool real good, I'll let you clean me down there. You know what I mean? Like it'll be something like that. Oh my God, Andre, if you're listening, I swear to God, I won't talk like this tomorrow. Andre, if you're watching me, I swear I'll be good tomorrow. I promise.
Honestly, a lot of these actresses I don't know anymore. I mean, here's one, I guess. I don't know what she's in. Madeline Pesh. Looks like she could be a good one, about 30. Otherwise, maybe Carrie Gilliam, but I don't know.
There's no more hot women in Hollywood. They've gotten rid of all of them. Now, when you cast, there's nothing to cast.
I know, that's the problem. And I don't know who. Like I said, unfortunately, a lot of the women I would have picked are too old now. But it's like they don't have enough room for redheads anymore. I'm surprised they just didn't go.
No,
and-
this new generation, they haven't kind of nurtured, hot women for this generation. They just wanted like these kind of weird, generic, average-looking women and men.
I would have said Haley Atwell, but she's also a little too old already.
Right. I mean, there's certainly women that could be in the role that are older, but if you want a younger Tila, there's really not a lot to work with.
She's supposed to be roughly 21, 2 in that age range, somewhere between 18 and 20 in that, because her and Adam are supposed to be about the same age. And depending on when you start the story, if you're going with a little bit younger Adam when he's still a teenager, well then yeah, she's got to be in her late teens or whatever too. So like, yeah.
I mean,
if anything, she's presented if maybe a tad older than him ever. If not, they're always the same.
Maybe I would do like, if I were Hollywood, I would now just do casting calls and try to get people that are outside the Hollywood system, not the same like 5
Sydney
actors.
Sweeney would have been perfect. I know I hate saying it.
You know,
a little short.
Yeah,
no, I
she
can
would've-
actually kind of see that. I can
She
actually
could've
I would have
been
been
redhead.
okay with it. Yeah, I mean,
Especially now that she's a little buff because of the role she's doing, she'd have been perfect to segue right into Tila.
I think she's a little too short and
Now,
spinner.
what is Tila's height supposed to be? If we're gonna be fair here,
Like
is it
when I
ratchet?
think of Tila, all right, let Mexican Iron Man explain to you this. Like if I'm with Tila, I don't have any props here with me, but if I were Tila, I want to be like down here, like at her knees, and I want to like with the rope and a hook, and I want to like get one on her shoulder, and I want to climb that mountain. You know what I mean? Like Tila's like the Mount
She's not
Everest
a big
of
woman,
woman.
though. Not really.
Okay,
I
I gotta
think
Google
fat, I just
Tila's
said
height.
tall.
Compared to He-Man, she's not, though.
Well,
I mean,
He-Man needs to be like 6'8".
Right.
He-Man should be like 6'8".
I looked at Tila.
He's not
is
the
supposed
fucking
to be
Hulk.
5'7". Tila's supposed to be 5'7".
Yeah, I was gonna say 5'6",
And
7,
Sydney
8, somewhere in
Sweeney's
there.
height
Yeah.
is what? She's 5'6", 5'5".
Somewhere in there, yeah. And it's not like your
She's
He-Man's going to be as
5'3".
tall as he's presented
I could-
either.
I could roll with 5. See, if it'd be one thing if Teal's like 6 foot or 6'2", like okay, maybe Sydney Sweeney does come up a foot or two short, but 5'7", 5'3", I'd say that's more comparable. I could roll.
I'm just mad that we'll never get what's her face who played Supergirl. She was like the perfect She-Ra as well.
Melissa
whatever.
Benoist.
No, the original one.
Oh, the original.
Helen Slater?
Helen
Can't
Slater,
talk about
yes.
Melissa because that
Yeah,
bitch
Helen
broke-
Slater, I liked her as Supergirl.
Melissa Benoit, whatever her name is, she broke my heart when she got married. So we're not talking about that bitch.
Actually, she could probably, that one could pull off probably She-Ra now as well. But problem with She-Ra is she's kind of on a separate license. So, but Amazon, I believe, has the live action She-Ra show and the movie now. So go figure on that one. My bigger problem is Ann Sarnoff and all the other crap they're going to pile onto this thing now. Plus, I don't think they're not using the what's-his-face screenplay, BBS and Demonic Toys. What's his name? Goyer. David S. Goyer. So, yeah. But with that, I think we drug the show off a hell of a lot longer than we planned. And we do have
Jesus,
few
you've been
more-
going for 3 hours. I've been
Yeah,
here
we
for
got a few
2.
more super chats here. We got that one.
I'm
We got
gonna
SFX.
pull out now.
Okay, yeah, so you go ahead and pull out now, but
Pull out,
SFX
Nick.
Sabretooth Raptor wishes us all a happy Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, Nick. And if you don't make the Thanksgiving show, but
Thanks,
take care of
man.
yourself. And what do you got going on?
Let's see. I put out a video yesterday. Put out another one tomorrow. Toxic Tuesday in a few minutes. Doing the Living Daylights 007 Timothy Dalton. Oh, there will be a member stream tomorrow, long overdue. And but wait, there's more. I'll probably also do a random hangout stream with my friends on YouTube if any of them are up for it after the member stream. So lots coming up this week before the big Thanksgiving shindig. So yeah, for any of you who I do not see, whether it's tonight or tomorrow, I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for having me, Tom. Good to see Michelle, and good hangout with Price. as
Gobble,
well.
gobble,
And Michelle
motherfucker.
subscribe. Yeah,
Nice to
I
see you
know
too,
I'm gonna
Nick.
Slip and slide up. Thank you. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Take care, Nick.
Huge.
So thank you for that, SFX. And then we got Goddess of Whim again. Oh, shit. No, never mind. I thought you said Nick here, but it's Wicked. Goddess of Whim sends in 2003 sends in $2 and says, yes, Sadie, just 1 minute. I'm going to see Nasferatu, not Wicked, and I'm a woman. Yeah, see what I mean? That's what I mean. Mark says, howdy guys, looking good, Mike. That's that hair. Wow, you know, it's
Thank you.
bewitching. You could
Thank
say.
you.
It's bewitchering.
Is that a compliment or a backhanded compliment? I can't
Both.
do- Oh, thank you. Wait, what?
Maybe he's hitting on you.
Oh, well, sorry. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to cheat on Price while he's on the live stream. I'll wait till he signs off.
One, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Wow, that got awkward real quick. So Price, you got a show coming up tonight later on?
Yeah, at 11:45 p.m. Eastern on my live channel, Price of Reason Live, there is the Night Owl, which I host with my co-host Professor R2, sometimes with a few other people, sometimes even Tom pops in. So yeah, it should be a nice little stream if you guys are up and want to hang out. Again, that's Price of Reason Live, because I have the regular Price of Reason channel, but this one is on my live channel. There's a second one that's live. Most people don't know about.
Speaking of, if you have, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. This is not the same channel as the Midnight's Edge regular channel. Just keep that in mind, guys.
What?
Yeah, I know. And Michelle, what do you got going on? You're going to be with me in the morning if all things go well, right?
No, that'll be my cousin, Mike.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see Mike in the morning, and thank you for being here, Michelle. We appreciate your insights.
My pronouns are
insights,
see
not your
you
insides.
tomorrow. My pronouns are see you tomorrow.
See you in tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my pronouns are see you and NT.
Okay.
What? You can't spell
Wait,
tonight.
wait, hold on. Wait, what?
So my pronouns are see you and NT.
Oh my God, do you know what that spells? Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Oh.
I wouldn't say it because we'll probably get in trouble. So yes, check out these channels. And Mike, do you have anything on your channel you want to plug? I know you drop videos from time to time.
Nope, I'm not a YouTuber.
You are too.
No, I'm not. When's the last time I posted a video, even an unboxing? What kind of
Like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something with the kiddo.
Nope. Oh wait, maybe. Maybe you're right.
I was gonna say it was like 3 weeks ago.
Anyway, see you tomorrow.
All right, kids, take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the mod.